Chapter 792. He was the rising star of the White Tiger sect, and he was faintly regarded as the top youth expert. This time, when they heard the news of Roaring Tiger Clan asking for help, saying that the Holy Church of Light was going to rebuild the Radiance Clan, the sect felt that this was no small matter. They had to kill this momentum and destroy the Holy Church of Light's hope. They quickly investigated and found out that Zhao Dai was a young man. Moreover, he was not well known in the Holy Church of Light and was a nobody. They reckoned that the Holy Church of Light was testing the waters. However, to be on the safe side, they still sent Tan Hu, the #1 youth expert, to kill Zhao Dai. Tan Hu was full of confidence before he came, but after he fought with Chu Li, his confidence was gone. This fellow was young, but he was already a top-notch master who was on par with him. The Holy Church of Light's martial arts were slightly superior to the White Tiger sect. If the two of them were to fight, it would be difficult to say who would win and who would lose. It was most likely that both sides would suffer. Chu Li scoffed. The White Tiger sect is quite capable after all. That's all for today. I'll visit again another day. Zhao Dai, I'll give you a piece of advice since you're pretty good at martial arts. Gale City isn't a place where you should stay, Tan Hu said in a deep voice. Chu Li scoffed. I'm the clan leader of Radiance Clan. I'm going to stay in Gale City. Tan Hu stood with his hands behind his back. His purple robe fluttered in the wind. This is the White Tiger sect's territory. So what? Chu Li scoffed and turned to leave. Tan Hu furrowed his brows as he stared at Chu Li's retreating figure. Could it be that the Holy Church of Light was determined to take over Gale City? The Holy Church of Light had always had many geniuses, so they were not stingy with them. They adopted the policy of letting these geniuses live and let them live. However, there were not many masters like Zhao Dai in the Holy Church of Light. It seemed like the Holy Church of Light valued Gale City a lot. In that case, they had to eliminate the Holy Church of Light's greed and prevent Zhao Dai from gaining a foothold. The next night, the night was as dark as ink, with no stars or moon to be seen. Chu Li was cultivating in the gazebo when two silhouettes silently floated into the residence. One of them was Tan Hu, and the other was a tall and thin old man. His face was as red as a date, and his eyes were as sharp as lightning. With a torch in his hand, Tan Hu went to the woodshed first and lit it up. Chu Li frowned and appeared in front of Ko Chiong and the others in a flash. He coughed softly. They were meditating on the carpet in the front hall when they were awakened by Chu Li. Chu Li glanced at the three of them and said in a low voice, "All of you leave the residence first." "Hall Master?" Ko Chiong hurriedly said. Chu Li scoffed. "A top-notch master has arrived. You'll only be courting death if you go. Hurry up and leave." "Yes." The three quickly nodded. What they feared the most now was death. They had just seen the light of day again and recovered their martial arts. They were just about to enjoy their lives. It would be such a waste to die like this. Tan Hu stared at the burning woodshed. Chu Li appeared behind him in a flash and threw a punch at him. Bang! Tan Hu turned around and threw a punch. Before the ferocious tiger could roar, the two fists collided. Chu Li and Tan Hu each took a step back. Under the illumination of the blazing fire, Tan Hu wore a sarcastic smile on his face. "I'll burn down all the houses here. Why would the Radiance Clan still be here when the houses are gone? As long as I'm here, the Radiance Clan will be here." Chu Li scoffed. Tan Hu shook his head. "You'll definitely die today." The red-faced elder appeared behind Chu Li like a ghost and struck him with his palm soundlessly. Chu Li had the omniscient mirror, so he had already seen through his silhouette. A cold light flashed on his waist. Ding! The tip of Chu Li's sword pierced the center of his palm, as if it had hit a rock. An extremely overbearing inner energy came from the blade, but it was burned by the divine light technique and turned into his own inner energy. Chu Li struck with his sword again. Ding, 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 ding. Chu Li's sword flashed like lightning, but the tip of the sword was always hit by the red-faced elder's palm. Chu Li's face darkened as he swung his sword continuously. He did not expect the Elder's palm technique to be so amazing that it was not inferior to the Divine Light sword. In fact, it was even better. The overbearing inner energy kept surging into him. In the beginning, it was burned and transformed by the Divine Light technique. Later on, the technique could not keep up with the transformation. Chu Li suddenly disappeared and reappeared behind Tan Hu. Ding! Tan Hu blocked the tip of Chu Li's sword with his palm as well. The overbearing inner energy coming from the blade was weakened by 2 notches. Masters Junior Meng. Tan Hu called out. The Elder threw a punch at Tan Hu. As the ferocious tiger roared, Tan Hu threw a punch as well. When the 2 fist forces met in the air, they suddenly turned into an illusory ferocious tiger that shot toward Chu Li like a shadow or fog. Chu Li was surprised. He had never seen such a wonderful technique. The tip of his sword stabbed forward, but it was empty. It did not seem to be a fist force at all. However, a strange inner energy came from the blade. It was as cold as ice water and seemed to be solid. It was abnormally pure, and he could not neutralize it. Since he did not want to use his heavenly demonic orb, he took a step back to buy some time to catch his breath. The illusory ferocious tiger suddenly flashed and hit him like a ray of light. Bang! He felt as if a giant hammer had hit his chest, and he was sent flying. He read from their minds that this was the white tiger killing skill, but he did not expect it to be so powerful. The overbearing inner energy was wreaking havoc in his body. It suppressed the Divine Light technique and continuously destroyed his internal organs. The advantage of the Divine Light body was that even though it was being ravaged, it was still tough and indestructible. His body began to emit a gentle glow. The glow flickered as it fought against the inner energy and continuously neutralized the damage. Humph, you do have some skills. Masters Junior Meng scoffed and threw a punch at Tan Hu again. Tan Hu threw a punch as well. When the 2 fist forces met again, they condensed into a faint shadow and crashed into Chu Li. The speed of this phantom was incomparably fast. He activated time steps and disappeared from his original spot in a flash, reappearing 20 feet away. The phantom of the white tiger followed him like a shadow. As soon as he reappeared, it crashed into him. With a muffled bang, he was sent flying again. Again, Masters Junior Meng said. Chu Li disappeared in the air and appeared 30 feet away in a flash. Then, he flashed again and appeared 100 feet away. After another flash, he disappeared from their sight. After him, Masters Junior Meng scoffed. We must kill him today. Tan Hu smiled. Masters Junior Meng, there's no need to rush. Burn this place down and he'll have to come back himself. That works too. Masters Junior Meng nodded. Tan Hu picked up a torch and continued to burn the houses. One by one, the houses caught fire. In the blink of an eye, 5 houses had been set ablaze and turned into raging flames. The blazing fire illuminated their faces. Chu Li had not appeared yet. Suddenly, the flames came from afar and a shout was heard. Zhao Dai of the Holy Church of Light's Radiance clan is here. Masters Junior Meng's expression changed slightly. It's the Roaring Tiger clan. Tan Hu gritted his teeth. What a vicious fellow. Zhao Dai was obviously trying to hurt both sides. They had set this place on fire, so Zhao Dai wanted to burn the Roaring Tiger clan. Although this place was big, it was still slightly smaller than the Roaring Tiger clan. Continue burning. Masters Junior Meng scoffed. If I don't kill him today, how can I return to the sect? As a dignified sect elder, he would be too ashamed to face anyone if he could not even kill a junior disciple of the Holy Church of Light. Alright. Tan Hu gritted his teeth. He lit the houses one by one. Chu Li's shout was heard from afar. Listen up, White Tiger sect. If you don't come over, I'll kill everyone in the Roaring Tiger clan. Masters Junior Meng's eyes flickered, but he shook his head helplessly. Go over. If they still did not go over after Zhao Dai's shout, not only would the Roaring Tiger clan be disappointed, but the entire Gale City would also be disappointed. The White Tiger sect's prestige would be greatly damaged. Zhao Dai, don't run if you dare, Tan Hu shouted. The two of them rushed over like a gust of wind and arrived in front of Chu Li in the blink of an eye. Chapter 793. P.S. Update complete. Am I going to become Shao Sigring? The two men appeared in front of Chu Li like a gust of wind and glared at him. Chu Li tossed the torch away and clapped his hands. I'm not afraid of you if I burn the house down. Zhao Dai, you're no match for us, Tan Hu said gently. You won't be able to stay in Gale City. We'll keep hunting you down. Why don't you be tactful and save us some trouble? Chu Li shook his head. Our light body technique is no match for mine. We can't kill me. Do you hide all day long? Tan Hu asked. As the clan leader of the Radiance clan, aren't you embarrassing the Holy Church of Light by looking so pathetic? It doesn't matter if I'm embarrassed. Chu Li glanced at the Roaring Tiger clan members. As long as I'm here, the Radiance clan will be here. Tan Hu said, I think the Holy Church of Light is using you as a sacrificial pawn to test the waters. Otherwise, why did they only send you? Why didn't they send a few more masters? You wouldn't be in such a pathetic state, right? Chu Li laughed. Tan Hu, you're being considerate of me. Tan Hu said, I'm being considerate of you as well. It'll save me a lot of trouble if you stop. Impossible. Chu Li stopped smiling and scoffed. Just give up. I won't leave. The Radiance clan won't fall. Tan Hu's face darkened. He turned to look at the tall and thin elder. Masters Junior Meng, you're unmoved by force or persuasion. There's nothing we can do. Kill him. The tall and thin elder nodded. The two men each threw a punch. Amidst the roars, two white tiger silhouettes appeared and instantly shot toward Chu Li. They were as fast as light and unavoidable. However, Chu Li was already 100 feet away. As soon as they thought about it, Chu Li activated time steps and dodged in advance. Woo! The roars did not stop. Two streaks of light chased after Chu Li. Chu Li dodged left and right. Every step he took was ahead of the two men's thoughts, but it was still strenuous for him. Before he came to the Li dynasty, he thought that the Holy Church of Light would be the strongest in the Li dynasty's martial arts world. After he arrived in the Li dynasty, he realized that although the Holy Church of Light was powerful, it was not as powerful as he had imagined. Chu Li had not paid much attention to White Tiger sect before this. The sun-cultivating White Tiger portrait originated from the Zheng dynasty's White Tiger Cave. Due to a natural disaster, the White Tiger Cave was destroyed and its martial arts were almost extinct. However, it still gave rise to a few branches and the White Tiger sect was one of them. He had also cultivated the sun-cultivating White Tiger portrait before. Although its power was strong, it was much weaker than the Great Light Scripture and the Titanium Temple's divine powers. In that case, he felt that the power of the White Tiger sect's martial arts was limited. Now that he had come into contact with the White Tiger sect, he realized that he had made a huge mistake. The White Tiger sect was able to become one of the four major sects because its martial arts were extremely powerful. This White Tiger killing skill was one of the best, and its speed was incomparably fast. If it weren't for the fact that he could see through their thoughts in advance, he wouldn't have been able to evade them with the time steps. Their light body technique was also very good, so they followed closely behind Chu Li, unwilling to let him go. Chu Li circled around the Roaring Tiger clan and dodged the two tiger silhouettes' pursuit. He was in a sorry state. Tan Hu and Masters Junior Meng each commanded a tiger silhouette to chase after him. One went up while the other went down, and the other went left while the other went right. Their teamwork was so great that even if Chu Li could read their minds, he would still fall into a dilemma at times. Bang! Bang! Two muffled sounds were heard. Chu Li entered a house through a window and then came out again. However, the two tiger silhouettes disappeared and crashed into the house with a muffled sound. Since the two of them could not enter in time, they lost control of the two tiger silhouettes. Chu had just sighed in relief when another two tiger silhouettes appeared and chased after him again. Chu scoffed and used the same trick again by entering the house. Then, before the two of them could enter the house, he went out again. Bang bang! Two muffled sounds came from inside the house, and the tiger silhouettes disappeared again. Two more tiger silhouettes appeared right after the tiger silhouettes disappeared. Chu went into the house again. One of the tiger silhouettes followed him in. Chu was not in a hurry to leave the house. Even after the tiger silhouette blew up a table, he still did not go out. Tan Hu suddenly entered the house. As soon as he entered, he was greeted by a blinding silver light. Ding, 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 ding. He waved his palms. Some of the sword tips pierced his palms while others pierced his body. In a short while, more than 10 holes appeared on his clothes. However, he was safe and sound as he entered the house and pounced on Chu. Chu dodged in a flash and continued to swing his sword. Tan Hu's body movement technique was extremely fast. He arrived in front of Chu in a single step. Ignoring the sword force, he threw a punch and hit Chu with a roar. Chu threw a punch. Bang! The two fist forces collided and both of them took a step back. Chu suddenly dodged and went out through the window. At this moment, the tall and thin elder came in. The two of them entered and exited at almost the same time. It seemed like a coincidence, but Tan Hu and the tall and thin elder knew that it was not a coincidence. This simple-looking Zhao Dai was extremely shrewd and sensitive. He was slippery and difficult to kill. Chu dashed out of the house and went into the night. By the time Tan Hu and the tall and thin elder ran out, Chu had already disappeared. "Go after him and kill him!" the tall and thin elder said angrily with a gloomy face. Tan Hu nodded. Chu's cultivation level was about the same as his, but Masters Junior Meng could not kill him. It was really frustrating. It was like an ant that could be killed with one stomp. However, it did not die no matter how much one stomped on it. It was infuriating. The two of them turned into a gust of wind and rushed out to where the Radiance clan was. However, Chu was not there. The two of them mobilized Roaring Tiger Clan's men to search for him. They searched Gale City in the middle of the night, but they still could not find Chu. Chu ran out of the city and meditated in a forest as he thought of a way to deal with them. Tan Hu and the old man with the surname Meng were very difficult to deal with. What was worse was that the white tiger power was very durable. Sneak attacks were ineffective, and he could not end the fight quickly. Once they started fighting, they would be entangled and the white tiger killing skill would be enough to make him suffer. He only had a chance of winning if he used the heavenly demonic power. However, he did not want to use the heavenly demonic power even if there was no one around to monitor him. After thinking about it, he could only continue to fight with these two and see who could outlast the other. The next morning, he appeared at the Radiance clan's residence. The fire in the residence had long been extinguished. The 5 houses in the front courtyard, including the woodshed, were burned down. The rest of the houses were unharmed. He randomly found a house and waited for Tan Hu and the others to find him. In the evening, the person he waited for was not Tan Hu but Li Ruolin. As soon as Li Ruolin appeared in front of the residence, Chu approached her in a flash. He frowned and said, "Miss Ruolin, why are you here?" Li Ruolin was dressed in a light purple gown and had a white veil over her face. Her face could not be seen, but her charming eyes were attractive enough. She looked at Chu from head to toe and asked gently, "Are you okay?" "Of course I'm okay," Chu said proudly. "The White Tiger sect is powerful, but they can't do anything to me." "That's good." Li Ruolin nodded gently. "Miss Ruolin, you shouldn't have come here." Chu looked around anxiously and waved his hand. "Come in quickly." Chapter 794. Chu noticed that she was looking at the ruins and quickly said, "Those people used all sorts of despicable means to force me to leave. Last time they splashed feces. This time they set the place on fire. I don't know what they'll do next." "Are the masters from White Tiger sect here?" Li Ruolin asked seriously. Chu replied, "Tan who? There's also an elder with the surname Meng." "Tan who?" Li Ruolin's curved eyebrows furrowed. "Let's talk inside." Chu extended his hand. The two entered the main hall. Chu raised his voice. "Hurry up and serve them tea." Ko Cheong quickly came in with a cup of tea. He served the tea to the two of them with a smile before he quietly left. "This is?" Li Ruolin asked curiously. She could tell that Ko Cheong was a grandmaster, but Zhao Dai was ordering him around like a servant. Chu said, "I subdued them. They're not good people. There's no need to be nice to them." "They're grandmasters after all," Li Ruolin said. "They'll be of great help." "They're not of much help." Chu curled his lips and said disdainfully, "They're good at serving tea and running errands. They're useless and can't be counted on. Miss Ruolin, don't you feel bored?" He pointed at his face. Li Ruolin rolled her eyes at him and elegantly removed her veil, revealing her charming face. Chu stared at her face and smiled. Li Ruolin felt a little uncomfortable under his gaze. She coughed softly and said, "I thought you'd secretly investigate the situation first. I didn't expect you to make such a big fuss as soon as you arrived. You're afraid that others won't know about it. You've caused too much trouble." Although the Radiance clan had been destroyed for 10 years, there were still spies from the Holy Church of Light in Gale City. Li Ruolin had inquired about Chu Li's situation from her informants and found out that he had barged into the Windstorm Association as soon as he arrived. He had chased out the members of the Windstorm Association and occupied the Radiance clan's main hall. After that, he had attacked the Roaring Tiger clan. Although this had boosted the prestige of the Holy Church of Light, he had also made too many enemies for himself and became the target of public criticism. No matter how powerful his martial arts skills were, he would not be able to withstand the joint attack of the masters of the White Tiger sect. He had been too reckless. According to her plan, if she wanted to restore the Radiance clan, she would first have to secretly disturb the Windstorm Association and the Roaring Tiger clan. Then, she would secretly assassinate them. Once they were in a mess, she would then take the opportunity to rise up and quickly consolidate the general situation. The current Holy Church of Light was not the Holy Church of Light from 10 years ago, so the White Tiger sect would not dare to do what they did 10 years ago. He did not expect Zhao Dai to use such a simple and crude method. Chu scoffed. "The Holy Church of Light needs to be imposing and domineering so that everyone knows that we're back. It's too dangerous for you." Li Ruolin frowned and said, "The saint won't send anyone else here. How are you going to defend yourself against the White Tiger sect's encirclement?" "It's okay," Chu said indifferently. "If I can't win, I'll just run. My light body technique is good." The White Tiger sect's light body technique is also very powerful. Li Ruolin shook her head and said, "Their tiger leaping over the mountain ravine light body technique is extremely fast. Time steps isn't as fast as theirs. You mustn't be careless lest they catch up to you." "I know." Chu nodded. He realized that the White Tiger sect's light body technique was more powerful than he had expected. Initially, he thought that the martial arts of sects that focused on body refinement were too strong and fierce but lacked agility. However, the White Tiger sect was different. "I'm worried about the White Tiger killing skill now." Chu frowned and said, "It's very difficult to deal with. I'm here on the Saint's orders to give you the Time Blade technique." Li Ruolin took out a crystal-clear jade tag that was the size of a palm and had no pattern. She handed it to Chu. "The Time Blade technique's inheritance is inside this. The Saint said that you'll be able to activate it." Li Ruolin's delicate hand merged with the white jade tag and there was no difference. Chu took it and smiled. "Thank you, Saint. I'm glad that you don't blame the saint. Li Ruolin smiled. Anyone else would have complained about the saint's ruthlessness. She had left him alone in the White Tiger sect's territory without any support. He had to rebuild the Radiance clan on his own. No matter how she looked at it, she was deliberately making things difficult for him and sending him to his death. As an outsider, Li Ruolin felt that the saint had gone overboard. However, Zhao Dai did not complain at all. It was hard to understand. Chu Li smiled and said, "Why would I blame the saint? I feel that it's very exciting and satisfying. Every time I fight with them, my martial arts improves a lot. My martial arts is much stronger than before." "That's good." Li Ruolin nodded gently. She also noticed that Chu Li's cultivation level had improved by another level. She sighed to herself. A genius was a genius. He was different from ordinary people and had improved so quickly that it left people speechless. However, it was no wonder that he struggled in such an arduous environment. His potential was naturally forced out, so it was not surprising that he improved so quickly. Chu Li placed the white jade tag on his forehead. Boom! A figure appeared in the void of Chu Li's mind with a muffled sound. A Buddha, a demon, and a mirror were cultivating in the void of Chu Li's mind. He was multitasking now. Even on normal days, he could maintain the void of his mind and cultivate the Great Light Scripture, Mahavairokkana's Immobility Scripture, and the Heavenly Demon Scripture. This figure's body was as clear as crystal. His flesh had disappeared, and only his meridians could be clearly seen. After the figure appeared in the void of his mind, he made an action of throwing a flying blade. As he did so, red lines appeared in his meridians. Then, the figure made another action of throwing a flying blade. Another string of red lines wrapped around his meridians. The figure threw a flying blade for the third time. The red lines were even more complicated and dense. Anyone who saw it would feel goosebumps. The fourth time he threw a flying blade, the red lines were even more complicated. It almost circled his meridians twice. It was not easy to throw a flying blade like this in a short period of time. The figure continued to throw flying blades. Each time, it was more complicated than the previous time. On the sixth time, two flows of inner energy appeared in his meridians. One was red while the other was blue. The two flows of inner energy circulated in his meridians at the same time. It was like two rivers flowing in their own channels before they finally converged. On the seventh time, the routes of the two flows of inner energy were complicated. On the ninth time, the two flows of inner energy intertwined and moved forward. However, they did not touch each other. They were clearly separated but moved forward side by side. It was almost impossible to do. Chu Li slowly opened his eyes and looked impressed. This light blade technique was many times more complicated than his eternity blade. He had experienced its power. Fang Qingyang's light blade technique was only at the third level, but its power was already shocking enough. If he could push it to the ninth level, he wondered how fast it would be. It made him restless. Seeing Chu Li's excited expression, Li Ruolin could not help but pour cold water on him. This light blade technique is similar to the divine light sword technique. The routes of channeling energy are complicated. However, it's much more complicated than the divine light sword technique. It's very difficult to cultivate. Chu Li said, "This is good. It's powerful too. With this, I won't have to be afraid of the white tiger killing skill anymore." "The white tiger killing skill is more powerful," Li Ruolin quickly said. "You can only suppress the white tiger killing skill if you reach the fourth level." Chu Li nodded. "I'll cultivate to the fourth level." Li Ruolin looked at him and finally nodded. Chapter 795. "Miss Ruolin, did you come here just to give this to me?" Chu Li handed the white jade tag back to her. Li Ruolin extended her delicate hand and took it. She nodded lightly. "It's mainly because of this. There are a few spies in the city who are prepared to tell you. You can ask them for help if you need any help. Without spies, you're deaf and blind." Chu Li waved his hand. Forget it, we don't need them. Li Ruolin looked at him in confusion. Chu Li replied, they're useless. The only right thing to do is to fight. As long as we can defeat the White Tiger sect, the Radiance clan will be able to rise again. If we can't, everything else will be useless. Can you defeat them? Li Ruolin shook her head. I can't beat him now. Chu Li scoffed. I can deal with one of them alone, but I won't be able to take on two of them at once. That being said, it doesn't matter. As long as I master the light blade technique, defeating them will be a piece of cake. If you can't reach the 4th level, it's useless even if you throw your saber at them. Li Ruolin said, Tan Hu is the top youth powerhouse of the White Tiger sect. His cultivation level is extremely high, and his White Tiger power is also at a very high level. He's invulnerable. Chu Li furrowed his brows and scoffed. He's a difficult fellow to deal with. He's not completely impervious to swords and spears. The White Tiger power consumes a lot of inner energy as well. My cultivation level is higher than his, so I can keep suppressing him until he runs out of inner energy. That won't be easy. The White Tiger sect's light body technique isn't weak. My Qinggong is better than his. All right. Li Ruolin nodded. There's still Elder Meng. His name is Meng Wu, and he's been famous for a long time. His cultivation level is even higher than Tan Hu's, so you'll have to be careful of him. Chu Li's face darkened and he slowly nodded. Meng Wu was indeed stronger than Tan Hu, and his cultivation level was a notch higher than Meng Wu's. Meng Wu had joined forces with Tan Hu to attack Meng Wu, and the duo's White Tiger killing skill made Meng Wu suffer a lot. As long as I master the light blade technique, I'll be able to defeat them. Chu Li scoffed. Li Ruolin said, You can't master the light blade technique in a short period of time, so you shouldn't fight them recklessly. It's easy to cultivate this, Chu Li said. Li Ruolin rolled her eyes at him. This fellow was arrogant enough. If it really was that easy, why didn't even the Holy Lady reach perfection, lacking the final layer? Even the most powerful Guardian King, Sun Haofeng, could only reach the 5th level. He could not reach the 6th level no matter what. Chu Li said, Miss Ruolin, you must leave quickly. It's very dangerous here. I came here quietly, Li Ruolin replied. Chu Li shook his head. They must have sent someone to keep an eye on this place. You'll be discovered the moment you get close. Hurry up and leave. You really don't want those spies? No. All right, I'll leave now. Chu Li stared at her face reluctantly. Although I don't want you to leave, it's really dangerous here. You should sneak out from the back door. I won't be seeing you off. Yes. Li Ruolin put up her veil again and said softly, Zhao Dave, don't fight them recklessly. If you can't beat them, just run. I'm not stupid. Of course I'll run. Chu Li laughed. Li Ruolin rolled her eyes at him and walked out gracefully. Then, she skimmed out of the backyard. Her clothes fluttered as she skimmed along the ground as if she was riding on the wind. She exited the alley and arrived at the main street. Then, she blended into the bustling crowd and quickly exited the town gate. She headed east. As she skimmed, she recalled the saint's instructions to see what Chu Li was thinking. She wanted to know if he was afraid of danger and wanted to escape or face it head-on. She asked the saint why she insisted on sending Zhao Dai to Gale City because it was too dangerous. The saint said that it depended on his luck, his temperament, and whether he was a dragon or a worm. Li Ruolin sighed as she thought about this. The saint was good at everything except that she treated human lives like ants and treated them like child's play. Not only did she not protect a genius among geniuses like Zhao Dai, but she also threw him into a dangerous place and put him in a dangerous situation. It was a little crazy. The saint seemed to be able to read her mind. The Holy Church of Light did not need to win with numbers. They only needed to find a master who could become an enlightened master. Li Ruolin understood the saint's painstaking effort and could only suppress her sympathy for Zhao Dai. It was said that the saint had a narrow escape and struggled to become a saint who would take over the Holy Church of Light in the future. The Holy Maiden was looking for the next Holy Maiden or a Law King. In the history of the Holy Church of Light, 2 priests had become enlightened masters. If Zhao De was powerful enough, he might become an enlightened master. Li Ruolan's light body technique was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, she had traveled more than 30 miles. She suddenly thought of something and stopped moving. She looked at the forest on the left and said, "Come out." 2 silhouettes appeared 20 feet away from her, looking at her quietly. One was a tall and thin young man, while the other was a tall and thin old man. They were Tan Hu and Meng Wu. "Who are you?" Li Ruolan asked with a frown. "Miss, you're from the Holy Church of Light, right?" Tan Hu asked with a fist salute. Li Ruolan frowned. "Who are you?" "I'm Tan Hu." Tan Hu shook his head. "We're going to offend you, miss." "What do you want?" "Kill you." Li Ruolan's charming eyes flickered. "Kill me to anger Zhao De? Miss, you're smart." Tan Hu nodded. Li Ruolan asked, "You think you can kill me?" Tan Hu smiled. "My cultivation level is higher than yours, and I have Master's Junior Meng with me. You won't be able to escape." "That's not necessarily true," Li Ruolan scoffed. She disappeared from where she was and reappeared 20 feet away. Then, she disappeared into the forest in another flash. Tan Hu shook his head. Meng Wu leaped into the forest. 2 dull thuds could be heard. Li Ruolan flew out of the forest. Her clothes fluttered in the wind and her face was covered by a white veil. No one could tell what she looked like, but her charming eyes seemed to have dimmed. She took out a jade porcelain in midair and tossed a red pill into her mouth. Thud. She landed heavily on the ground. She looked slightly disheveled, but her veil was still covering her face. Tan Hu put his hands together and pulled them apart. He clenched his fists and punched them. With a roar, his fists formed a tiger silhouette that shot toward Li Ruolan. Li Ruolan's clothes fluttered as her aura increased. She leaped and appeared 40 feet away. "Go after her," Meng Wu scoffed. "She's taken the rebirth pill. She can only last for 15 minutes. The 2 of them chased after Li Ruolan like 2 gusts of wind. Li Ruolan fluttered as if she was riding on the wind. Her speed was incredibly fast, and Meng Wu and Tan Hu were getting further and further away from her. Tan Hu scoffed. With a dull thud, a tiger silhouette fell from the sky and entered his body. His speed suddenly increased. He was getting closer to Li Ruolan and was about to catch up to her. When Li Ruolan saw him approaching, she was about to unleash the secret technique of great light. Bang! Tan Hu suddenly threw a punch, which collided with a fist force from beneath his feet. A dull thud was heard and his speed slowed down. Chu Li suddenly emerged from the forest and walked side by side with Li Ruolan. When Li Ruolan saw him, she was shocked. "Why are you here?" Chu Li replied, "I was worried about you, so I've been following you. I didn't expect these 2 to be so despicable. I'm going to kill everyone in the Roaring Tiger clan when I get back." "Despicable indeed," Li Ruolan scoffed. Chapter 796. Zhao De, you're just in time. Tan Hu laughed. "We were just about to look for you." Chu Li replied, "You can't kill me, so why are you looking for me? You're wasting your time." "That might not be true." Tan Hu laughed. "We won't let you escape this time. Anyone can brag," Chu Li said impatiently. He reached out and placed his hand on Li Ruolan's waist. Li Ruolan trembled and glared at him with her charming eyes. Chu Li pretended not to notice and sped up. Li Ruolan felt a sudden push on her waist and her body was pulled forward. The scenery in front of her was moving backward at a speed faster than her. She sighed to herself. A month ago, she could defeat him with one hand. Today, a month later, he was much stronger than her. The world had changed so strangely that it was hard to fathom. Chu Li's cultivation level was higher than Tan Hu's. With the divine light body and time steps, he was able to maximize his speed. Even if Tan Hu used his secret skill, the distance between them was still increasing. Tan Hu snorted and punched his fists together. A tiger silhouette appeared between his fists and instantly shot toward Chu Li. Chu Li's divine light fist hit the tiger silhouette, but it did not receive any force. However, the fist force continued to attack Tan Hu, forcing him to change his position. His body became sluggish and the distance between them increased again. Chu Li dove into the forest. The tiger silhouette followed him and soon crashed into a tree. A muffled boom was heard. The tree seemed to have been hit by a boulder and was about to be uprooted. Chu Li held Li Rulin in his arms and shuttled through the forest like a fish. Through the observation of the omniscient mirror, he knew the road ahead of time. He knew where the branches were, where to turn, and where to find gaps. Therefore, he did not slow down at all. Tan Hu also entered the forest, but he fell further and further away until he gradually disappeared. His angry roar could be heard from afar. Chu Li smiled. "Miss Rulin, how's my escaping ability?" Li Rulin saw that he was walking through the forest as if it was flat ground and did not slow down at all. It was obvious that his reaction speed was far beyond that of an average person. He was indeed a genius favored by the heavens. Chu Li turned to look. 200 meters away, Meng Wu's tall and slender figure appeared. He stepped on the treetops like a gust of wind blowing through the woods and gradually approached Chu Li and Chu Li. Chu Li frowned and said, "This old man is really difficult to deal with. There are 8 Grand Elders in the White Tiger sect, and he's one of them." Li Rulin said in a low voice, "Don't underestimate him. He made a name for himself a long time ago. He's been keeping a low profile all these years because he rarely fights as an elder of the White Tiger sect. His cultivation level will only get stronger." Chu Li asked, "He's an elder with this level of cultivation?" He was a little disappointed. Meng Wu's cultivation was slightly higher than his, but not by much. It was the same feeling he had when he had first met Fong Qingyang. Li Rulin scoffed. "These old fellows are different from young people. Young people usually reveal 70% of their abilities, but these old fellows usually hide 30% of their abilities and only reveal 70% of their abilities. They won't show their fangs unless it's a critical moment. Be careful of him." Chu Li smiled. "But no matter how powerful he is, we can still escape with our lives. You haven't learned the secret technique of great light." "I'm afraid." Li Rulin shook her head. Chu Li asked, "Why didn't the saint teach me the secret technique of great light?" "Maybe she's afraid that you'll use it," Li Rulin said. "The secret technique of great light can reduce one's lifespan." "That's still better than dying immediately," Chu Li said. Li Rulin remained silent. She was not sure either, but she knew there must be a reason. The saint could not have forgotten. As the two talked, Meng Wu continued to close the distance between them. He was only 100 meters away now. Chu Li suddenly dodged and made a turn. In Meng Wu's eyes, Chu Li disappeared in an instant. He paused for a moment before he caught up with him again. Chu Li kept changing his figure. The mountain range they were in was endless. Chu Li kept shuttling through the forest without stopping. He would sometimes turn left and sometimes turn right. His direction was constantly changing. After running for half a day, Chu Li stopped. The two of them stood at the peak of a mountain facing the wind. The sun shone brightly in the sky, but it was not scorching hot. The strong wind whistled, and Chu Li's clothes fluttered as he looked at Li Rulin. Li Rulin's injuries were almost healed. The strong wind made her clothes stick to her graceful body, but it could not lift up her veil. He had experienced the strangeness of this veil before. It could block prying eyes, and the omniscient mirror could not see into one's heart. He did not expect it to block the wind as well. "Miss Rulin, I'll see you off here," Chu Li said. Li Rulin nodded. "Zhao Dai, thank you." Chu Li waved his hand and smiled. "You don't have to be so polite. It's only natural. If something happened to you, I really wouldn't know what to do." Li Rulin rolled her eyes at him. Are you going back now? Of course I can't go back. Chu Li scoffed. I have to find a place to cultivate and master the light blade technique. Then I'll settle the score with them. If I go back now, I'll be suppressed and hunted down by them. It'll be too frustrating. Yes, cultivate your martial arts first. Li Ruolin nodded. Chu Li said, Miss Ruolin, you have a lot of things to do. You should leave first. I think this mountain is good, so I'll stay here and cultivate. I'll stand guard for you, Li Ruolin said. Chu Li waved his hand and smiled. I'm not cultivating the great light scripture. I'm cultivating the light blade technique. I don't need to stand guard. Li Ruolin stared at him and slowly nodded. She sighed to herself. This guy is more straightforward than slow-witted. He had such a good opportunity to stay with me, but he chose to let it go. I don't know whether to laugh or cry. He's so insensitive. It was not that she had a good impression of Chu Li. She only thought that he was silly. Even if she did not like him, she would take care of him for a few days to repay him for saving her life so that he could cultivate in peace. Yet, he rejected her. This was really, when she thought about this, she said, All right then. Keep an eye on Mengwu. I'll go back and report to the saint. Okay. Chu Li looked reluctant to part with her as he stared into her charming eyes. Li Ruolin did not move. She waved her hand and fluttered away. Soon, she disappeared into the dense forest. Before she entered the forest, she turned around to look at Chu Li. He was still standing there in a daze as if he would always be there. At this moment, she suddenly felt a little touched. It was a wonderful feeling to have someone who liked her so sincerely. Chu Li watched as her figure disappeared. He felt a little lost. Although he did not have feelings for Li Ruolin, he still felt a little melancholy when such an attractive beauty left. With a beauty by his side, he felt that the world had become so beautiful. Time passed so quickly. He quickly suppressed his thoughts and went to the stone wall at the peak of the mountain to cultivate the light blade technique. He was proficient in the eternity blade technique, so he did not need to practice his accuracy anymore. He had long reached the realm of becoming one with the blade and was extremely accurate. This was the most basic and time-consuming step in cultivating the flying blade. He had already solved it, so all that was left was the combination of the heart technique and the flying blade. This was why he was confident that he could master it quickly. He had already reached the realm of becoming one with the blade, so he did not need to waste time on training. Moreover, he had a unique advantage when it came to complex heart technique. Due to his strong spiritual power, he could circulate his inner energy with ease, so he could easily activate the heart technique no matter how complicated it was. Chapter 797. P.S. Update complete. I've really become Xiao Sigong. I'm so sorry. From the first level to the 5th level, it was a piece of cake for him. However, it was not so easy to reach the 6th level. It required 2 types of inner energy to circulate at the same time. It was not a problem for Chu Li as he could multitask. The key was where the 2 types of inner energy came from. He realized that the light blade was not powerful enough if he split the inner energy into 2 and had them flow separately to the blade. It was not even as powerful as the 5th level. It was obvious that he had cultivated it wrong. The 2 types of inner energy could not be from the same source and needed different types of inner energy. Chu Li smiled after some thought. It might be difficult for others, but it was not difficult for him. The 2 types of spiritual energy entered his body. One followed the crescent cryptic, while the other followed the divine light technique. After condensing into their own inner energy, the 2 types of inner energy followed the 6th level of the light blade technique. Chi! With a soft whistle, the pebble in his hand disappeared and reappeared on the stone wall. With a muffled bang, a deep pit appeared on the stone wall. Chu Li arrived in front of the stone wall and studied the pit. Although the stone wall was weathered by wind and rain and was not as hard as normal stones, The fact that it was so deep and there were no cracks around the pit showed that the inner energy condensed in the pebble was strong and violent. Such power was worthy of being the 6th level. Unfortunately, he could not use the crescent cryptic because he could not expose it. With that thought, he activated his light body technique and timed steps to the extreme. He was much faster than when he came to Gale City. The next evening, he returned to the thatched cottage on Small Light Peak. Under the setting sun, the small cottage on the peak was dyed a rose color as it stood proudly in the howling wind. He could not help but feel a sense of familiarity when he saw the cottage. The scenery had not changed. He stood in front of the cottage and let out a long whistle. Soon, Lerulin fluttered over. She wore a purple gown and a white veil covered her face, revealing only a pair of charming eyes. When she saw Chuli, her charming eyes flashed and she asked in surprise, "Why are you back?" "I'm looking for your help, Miss Rulin," Chuli replied. "What help?" Lerulin approached him. Her purple gown fluttered in the wind and a faint fragrance wafted into his nose. Chuli gestured for them to enter the house. The two entered the small room that was as warm as spring. One sat on the couch and the other sat on the stone stool in front of the couch. "There's no one here yet?" Chuli asked. "Do you like this place?" Lerulin smiled and said, "You can keep it here if you like it." Chuli was surprised. "Can I keep it?" Lerulin said, "As long as you make enough contributions, you'll be able to claim this small light peak as your own, and no one else will be able to enter." "What kind of contribution do I need?" Chuli quickly asked. This small light peak was filled with spiritual energy and was the best place for cultivation. Although it was not as good as the Spirit Crane's peak, it was still considered a top-notch place in the outside world. "You'll have to ask the saint about that," Lerulin said with a smile. "Let's get down to business. When I'm cultivating the 6th level of the light blade technique, I'll need 2 heart techniques," Chuli said. "You've only learned the divine light technique now, so you'll need another heart technique." "You've already reached the 6th level?" Lerulin was surprised. Chuli revealed a proud expression. "It's very fast to learn this. You can't just cultivate heart techniques." Lerulin hesitated for a moment before she said, "Accuracy is very important. If you can't hit your target, no matter how powerful your flying blades are, it'll be useless." Chuli smiled. "I've been practicing flying stones since I was young, so I can hit birds with small stones." "I see." Lerulin slowly nodded. Zhaode was really lucky. He had trained his aim since he was young, so it was much easier for him to practice the light blade technique. All the disciples in the sacred church had to spend 2 to 4 hours every day to practice target shooting when they practiced the light blade technique. "Can I cultivate another heart technique?" Chuli asked. Lerulin said, "I'll discuss this with the saint. Hurry up and go." Chuli said, "I'm in a hurry to cultivate the light blade technique, so I can go back and kill Tan Hu and Meng Wu." Lerulin pursed her lips into a smile before she nodded and turned to leave. Chuli sat on the stone bed and cultivated. It was exceptionally quiet as he sat there, and it felt as if time had stopped. He suddenly missed Shao Qi and Shao Shi. They should be having dinner in the residence at this time, and it should be very lively, but he was all alone here. There was a knock on the door. Lerulin was standing outside. Chuli went forward to open the door and smiled. Lerulin was dressed in a bluish-white gown and stood elegantly under the moonlight. The white veil on her face had been removed, revealing her charming and fair face. "This is the heart technique that the saint gave you. Cultivate it well." She took out a thin booklet from her sleeve and handed it to Chuli. Chuli took it and looked at it. The words "Great One Technique" were written on the cover. He flipped through it carefully and shook his head helplessly. Looking at the densely packed red lines, he knew that the saint knew his unique ability very well and that he was good at cultivating complex heart technique. Lerulin pursed her lips and smiled. "The Great One Technique is very powerful. Even if it's used alone, it's not something that can be compared to ordinary heart technique. Thank you, Saint, Chu said. Li Ruolin smiled. The saint said that this heart technique is very compatible with the divine light technique, and it can maximize the power of the light blade technique. Chu sighed. It's a little difficult to cultivate. It won't be a problem for you, Li Ruolin said. The saint said that you have a chance of perfecting it. Chu chuckled. Really? I can cultivate the light blade technique? Yes. Li Ruolin nodded. So far, only one person has perfected the light blade technique, and that's the saint. Even the bishop hasn't perfected it. Chu puffed out his chest. Then I'll be the second. Li Ruolin rolled her eyes at him. Then you should work hard. I'm leaving. I'll bring you food tomorrow. Chu quickly replied, Okay. The saint said that you can't stay here for more than 3 days, Li Ruolin said. Otherwise, you'll give up. Sigh. All right. Chu shook his head helplessly. Li Ruolin pursed her lips into a smile and left. Chu flipped through the Great One technique and imprinted it in his mind, so he sat on the bed to cultivate. The Great One technique's heart technique was complicated, but it was easy for him. Soon, he had completed a circulatory cycle, and a faint, warm force was produced. After a few more circulatory cycles, the warm force became stronger. When this force flowed through his meridians, it felt like dew rolling on the ground. It was unusually comfortable. He walked out of the house and picked up a small stone to activate the 6th level of the light blade technique. A trace of the divine light technique's inner energy and a trace of the Great One technique's inner energy circulated respectively before converging on his hand. The small stone in his hand suddenly disappeared. TSS. An extremely soft sound was heard. The small stone was embedded in a large rock in the distance. It was almost silent, and the large rock was like tofu. Chu was secretly surprised by the speed. It was as if it could travel across space. He picked up another small stone and activated it. The small stone disappeared again, and the next moment it appeared on a tree. It silently sank into the tree and almost disappeared. Chapter 798. P.S. I'll resume 6 chapters from today onwards. I need everyone's encouragement. Now that he had mastered the 6th level, the remaining 7th and 8th levels would be a piece of cake for him. With his strong spirit, he could activate the 7th and 8th levels no matter how complicated they were. Compared to the 6th level, the 7th and 8th levels were much faster. Once activated, the pebble would hit its target instantly with almost no time lag, and its power was even more shocking. The 7th level was twice the power of the 6th level, while the 8th level was twice the power of the 7th level. Chu could imagine that if he were to use this against Tan Hu would not be able to escape. Unfortunately, when he reached the 9th level, he stopped again. The two forces were entangled together, yet they were in harmony. It was like water and fire, yet they were in harmony. It was almost impossible to achieve, unless there was a special mental cultivation method that could balance these two forces. Chu felt that he might need a third force of inner energy. Unfortunately, he did not succeed when he tried to activate it. It was even more difficult to harmonize the 3 forces of inner energy. The next morning, Li Ruolin changed into a peach blossom gown and fluttered over. She looked fresh and pleasant. When she saw that Chu was shooting pebbles, they disappeared from his hand in a flash and reappeared in a big rock in the distance. She stood aside and watched in amazement. Chu's pebbles were getting faster and faster, and they were all hitting the same spot. Poof! A 1-meter-thick rock was pierced and the pebble was shot out from the other side. Her charming eyes widened as she looked at him in shock. According to what she knew, the light blade was harder to cultivate as it was too fast and powerful. It was not easy to control the accuracy. Even if it was shot, it would not hit its target and it would be futile. Moreover, the higher the level, the more spiritual and inner energy it consumed. At the 6th level, Most people would be exhausted after shooting 2 or 3 blades and no longer have the energy to shoot anymore. However, Chuli had shot 10 pebbles in a short while and was still full of energy. He did not look tired at all. He was not a genius, he was a freak. Chuli patted the dirt off his palms and turned to smile at her. Miss Rulin, how's my light blade? This is the 6th level? Li Rulin's clothes fluttered in the strong wind and her hair was a little messy. Only the veil on her face remained motionless as it quietly covered her face. The 7th level, Chuli replied. You've already reached the 7th level? Li Rulin was surprised. Chuli smiled. I've reached the 8th level, but the stones on the 8th level can't withstand it, so I can only use the 7th level. The power of the 8th level was too strong. Once the internal energy converged on the stone, the small stone immediately exploded. Li Rulin took off her veil, and a smile appeared on her charming face. I'm here to deliver you a saber. She rolled up her sleeves and revealed her snow-white wrist. Then, she revealed a circle of flying knives around her wrist. They were only as long as an index finger and were as bright as a mirror. Under the bright morning sun, they flashed with a cold light. Chuli raised his eyebrows, but his gaze fell on her fair wrist. Li Rulin rolled her eyes at him and took off her wrist guard. There were 6 flying daggers neatly inserted into the wrist guard. She handed the wrist guard to Chuli and said, "The saint personally gave this to you. Thank you, Saintess." Chuli took it absent-mindedly. It felt so light in his hand that it was almost weightless. 6 is a little too little. Li Rulin said, "It's enough. How many blades do you think you can shoot?" The light blade was not used, but once it was used, it would usually kill. Moreover, under full force, one could not shoot more than 6 blades. After 2 or 3 or even 1 blade, one would not be able to shoot more. Chuli asked, "Do you want a few more?" Li Rulin said impatiently, "A few?" 6 more, Chuli said. "I'll carry them on my other hand." "It's fine with your left hand, but if you use your right hand, it'll delay your speed," Li Rulin said. Chuli shook his head. "It's fine. It's so light, how can it be delayed?" "All right, I'll talk to the saint." Li Rulin suddenly realized that she had a fortuitous encounter and had extraordinary strength. Li Rulin bid farewell and floated down like a cloud. Soon, the clouds and mist blocked her figure. Soon, she flew 10 miles away and disappeared from the omniscient mirror. Chuli did not follow the saint to find out where she was. Instead, he settled down and continued to cultivate. The flying blade was light as if it was weightless and as thin as ice. If it was thrown without inner energy, it would not be powerful at all. It would feel like a needle on a cow's hair, and would not even be able to pierce through one's clothes. However, this blade was extremely sharp. When he held it and gently touched a rock, it was like touching a piece of tofu. Fortunately, his body-tuning technique was not shallow, so it was not a big deal even if he touched it. If it was an ordinary person, a light touch would cause serious injuries. Wearing it on one's wrist could easily hurt oneself. He immediately activated the 8th level of the light blade technique. The flying blade in his hand flashed lightly and then disappeared. It reappeared 10 meters away and flashed on a 1-meter-thick rock. Then, it turned into a cold ray of light and shot another 10 meters away. It drilled into another boulder and disappeared. Chuli was speechless. What a powerful force! He initially thought that it would penetrate the first rock, but he did not expect it to pierce through it and then into another rock. Such a force was not something that could be blocked by a human body. An excited smile appeared on his face. When he imagined Tan Hu and Meng Wu being hit by this flying blade, he wanted to laugh out loud. He activated the 8th level of the blade technique again. The flying blade in his hand disappeared in a flash, and then reappeared in a boulder 20 meters away. A clear ding sound came from the boulder. Then, the 2 flying blades pierced through the boulder at the same time. In a flash, he appeared in front of the flying blades. With a wave of his hand, the 2 flying blades flew into his hand. He carefully examined the two flying blades. They were as shiny as new and there was nothing strange about them. He held the two flying blades in his hand. He knew that he would not be able to block them. With such flying blades, how many people in this world could block him? However, the saint had also cultivated it. He was no match for her. The next morning, Lerulin appeared again with two boxes in her hands. One was a lunchbox while the other was a dark purple palm-sized box. She handed them to Chuli. "These are flying blades that the saint gave you. They're called flying snow." Chuli opened the box and saw 6 small blades that were as thin as cicadas' wings. They were smaller and narrower than the ones he had obtained before. "You can hold them between your fingers," Lerulin said. Chuli picked one up and held it between his index and middle fingers. Indeed, he could not see it. Lerulin took out a thin booklet and handed it to Chuli. "The saint said that it's enough to cultivate up to the 8th level. However, it'll be better if you can perfect it. The saint only managed to perfect it last month. This secret booklet is the key." Chuli reached out and took the booklet. The words "regeneration technique" were written on it. He flipped through it and saw that it was a method of transferring vital essence. It was not a martial arts heart technique. This method of transferring vital essence was usually a nourishing technique to strengthen the body. It was not the same as a martial arts heart technique. Those who cultivated nourishing techniques were usually people who had not built their foundation. This heart technique transferred the most gentle vital essence. After Chuli flipped through it, he came to a sudden realization and exclaimed, "The saint is really amazing." Chapter 799. Lerulin smiled. "Other than the saint, you're the first in the Holy Church of Light to reach the 9th level." "Ha ha." Chuli puffed out his chest proudly. Lerulin said, "The saint said that since you've reached the 8th level of Lightblade, it's enough for you to protect yourself. It's time to leave for Gale City." "Alright, I'll leave today." Chuli kept the purple box and said excitedly, "Watch how I'll deal with them." He could not wait to return when he thought about suppressing Tan Hu and Meng Wu. He smiled. "Tell the saint to wait for my good news. I'll make the Radiance clan famous in Gale City. You should be careful." Lerulin said, "The saint said that Gale City is a complicated place. Don't think that you can gain a foothold just because you can defeat the White Tiger sect. There are many other forces there, and they may not let the Radiance clan be established." "Yes, I'll be careful." Chuli nodded. Lerulin looked at him deeply. "I'll visit you in a month." Chuli quickly waved his hand. "Please don't. It's too dangerous there." "You think I'm a burden, don't you?" Lerulin frowned. Chuli smiled. "Miss Rulin, if anything happens to you, how am I going to live? You stay here. I'll be back in a month." "All right." Lerulin nodded. She felt slightly awkward and turned to leave. She turned into a cloud and left. After Chuli finished his meal, he activated time steps and left at lightning speed. His face turned gloomy when he arrived at the Radiance clan's residence. The Radiance clan had been reduced to ruins. All the houses had been demolished and razed to the ground. The setting sun dyed the ruins red. The small lake had been filled up and the backyard was trampled into a mess. Withered flowers and withered leaves were scattered all over the ground. Many trees had been cut in half and were scattered all over the place. Chuli let out a long howl toward the sky. His howl reverberated throughout Gale City. He then rushed toward the Roaring Tiger clan. In the main hall of the Roaring Tiger clan, Tan Hu sat below while Meng Wu and another old man with white eyebrows and a face as rosy as a baby sat at the top. The old man was thin and his beard reached his chest, almost reaching his waist. "Master Senior Zhu, we don't have to worry about that guy not coming." Tan Hu laughed and said, "If we tear down his Radiance clan, he won't have the cheek to say that the Radiance clan will be rebuilt. If he doesn't regain his dignity, the Radiance clan will be finished." "Yes, that's a good move." Uncle Master Zhu stroked his long beard and chuckled. Xiao Hu, you youngsters are so smart to be able to come up with such an idea. Old fogies like us only think about chasing and killing. Tan Hu hastily gave a fist salute and said with a smile, Master Uncle Zhu, you flatter me. I learned it from Master Uncle Meng. Meng Wu waved. Master Wu. Meng Zhu. Masters Meng Wu. Yang Wei sect Zhu Sun Zhu must've. Sect Wu sect. Masters Senior Zhu sighed. The sect is taking this matter very seriously. If I can't take down an abandoned disciple of the Holy Church of Light, I'll be too ashamed to face anyone. Don't worry, Masters Senior Zhu. Tan Hu smiled. Tan Hu laughed. However, I've also figured out this fellow's temper. He's proud and stubborn. Now that the Radiance clan has been demolished, he'll definitely rush over. Young people are always like that. Master Senior Zhu stroked his beard. Tan Hu said, his martial arts is slightly better than mine, but he's far behind Masters Senior Zhu and Masters Junior Meng. He won't be able to survive if the three of us work together. That's good. Masters Senior Zhu nodded. It's best if he comes quickly. The Holy Church of Light might send another disciple or even a priest. A priest won't. Before Meng Wu could finish, a long howl was heard. Tan Hu's spirits lifted and he was overjoyed. He's here. Meng Wu smiled. He can't keep his cool. Let's go. Master Senior Zhu said. Tan Hu smiled. Master Senior Zhu, don't worry. He'll come to us. The howl was endless and soon reached their ears. Chu Li had arrived at the Roaring Tiger clan. Bang! A muffled sound was heard. He lifted the stone lion in front of the main entrance of the Roaring Tiger clan and threw it at the wall of the Roaring Tiger clan, creating a big hole in the wall. Boom! He lifted another stone lion and threw it, creating another big hole. The two holes connected, and with a crash, a large section of the courtyard wall collapsed. The disciples of the Roaring Tiger clan ran out and took a step back when they saw him. None of them dared to rush forward. Chu Li was holding the stone lion. He looked small in front of the huge stone lion, as if he could be crushed into meat paste at any time. However, he looked like he was lifting a brick casually. His extraordinary strength amazed them. When Chu Li set fire to the Roaring Tiger clan last time, some of the fearless disciples rushed forward, but they all died. This time, they did not dare to throw their lives away. Chu Li stepped into the courtyard through the collapsed wall, and came before the stone lion. He lifted it and threw it forward as if he was picking up a stone and throwing it forward. The stone lion rolled forward, breaking the trees and collapsing the rockery in its path. The stone lion rolled all the way to the front of the main hall and crashed into the steps in front of the main hall. Bang! The main hall seemed to shake. Then, Chu Li tossed out another stone lion. This time, the stone lion soared into the air and flew above the main hall before it fell with a whoosh. Boom! The stone lion crushed the roof and fell into the main hall. The three people in the main hall glided out of the main hall to avoid the falling stone lion. Their faces were so gloomy that it looked like they were going to drip water. Chu Li clapped his hands and puffed out his chest proudly. People of the White Tiger sect, come out and die. Tan Hu yelled, Zhao Dai, you came to die. Perfect timing. Chu Li scoffed. You took advantage of my absence to tear down the Radiance clan. Is this all the White Tiger sect can do? What a joke, haha. His laughter reverberated throughout half of Gale City. Tan Hu scoffed. You're hiding like a rat. We demolished the Radiance clan to force you to show yourself. However, even the main hall has been demolished. How can we rebuild the Radiance clan if we can't even protect the main hall? What a joke, haha. His laughter was so loud that half of Gale City could hear it. Chu Li laughed. If the White Tiger sect knows what's good for them, get lost. If you don't, I'll send you to meet your elder ancestor. Little? Aluminum? Chiu Sang? As soon as he finished speaking, he shot toward Tan Hu. Tan Hu punched his fists together and a tiger silhouette suddenly appeared and shot toward Chu Li. Chu Li scoffed. This move is useless. His figure flashed and approached Tan Hu. Then, he was hit by the tiger silhouette from the back with a bang and accelerated toward Tan Hu. Tan Hu sneered and swung his fist. Amidst the roar of a tiger, his fist force collided with Chu Li's chest. Chu Li disappeared from the spot in a flash and avoided the fist force. At the same time, he was only 3 steps away from Tan Hu. Then, he swung his arm and shot out a cold light. Ugh! Tan Hu widened his eyes in disbelief and stopped moving. He lowered his head to look at his chest. A trace of blood appeared where his heart was. Then, there was a muffled pft, and an arrow of blood spurted out from his heart. Chapter 800. Tan Hu. Meng Wu roared and punched with both fists. A tiger silhouette appeared and shot toward Chu Li. The old man, Zhu Qinyu, glided to Tan Hu's side and quickly tapped his fingers. He took out a jade bottle and poured out a white pill to stuff into Tan Hu's mouth. Then, he carried Tan Hu and glided away, disappearing without a trace. Chu Li swung his blade again and did not dodge the tiger silhouette. A cold glint flashed and appeared behind Meng Wu. This blade was an 8-level light blade while Tan Hu's was only a 6-level light blade. The tiger silhouette crashed into the rockery next to him and exploded with a bang, sending several stones flying. Meng Wu staggered and stared at Chu Li in disbelief with his eyes wide open. Chu Li picked up a flying blade and shook it. He scoffed. My light blade has reached the 7th level. You guys are just courting death. You. Meng Wu lowered his head to look at his chest and saw a trace of blood. He quickly tapped his fingers and took a deep breath. His face quickly withered and many wrinkles appeared. It was as if he had aged a few decades in a single breath. His aura became weak, and he looked like an old man with 1 foot in the grave. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. This was a secret skill that seemed similar to the life and death scripture. It could suppress one's heartbeat and slow down one's blood flow like an animal in hibernation. Chu Li appeared in front of him and waved the flying blade. Meng Wu, did you think this day would come when you wanted to kill me? Zhao Dai, if you kill me, you should know the consequences. Meng Wu said slowly in a weak voice. He was extremely weak and could not fight. This was the price of using the secret skill. Chu Li curled his lips and scoffed. Consequences? You wanted to kill me. If I didn't have the light blade, I would have been killed by you. If you kill me, the White Tiger sect won't stop until they kill you. Meng Wu scoffed. Chu Li smiled. All right, I'd like to see how the White Tiger sect won't stop. After saying that, he punched out fiercely. Bang! The divine light fist was so powerful that Meng Wu flew backward and crashed into the stone lion. He spat out a mouthful of blood and the wound on his chest was bleeding. Chu Li threw another punch. Roar! Zhu Qinyu suddenly appeared in front of Meng Wu and threw a punch with his right hand. Bang! There was an explosion and Chu Li took a step back. The fist force collided and turned into a tremendous force that forced him to take a step back to neutralize it. However, Zhu Qinyu did not take a step back. He punched with both fists, and a tiger silhouette appeared. It was clear and agile, as if it was a white tiger that had come to life. It instantly appeared in front of Chu Li. Chu Li did not dodge or evade. Instead, he shot out his blade. Bang! Struck by the tiger's shadow, he felt as if a giant hammer had smashed into his heart. He found it difficult to breathe, his vision darkened, and he almost fainted. Zhu Qing's shoulder was bleeding, and he dodged the flying knife at the critical moment. The White Tiger killing skill and the light blade had their own advantages and disadvantages. The White Tiger killing skill was extremely fast, and it could be moved at will to track the opponent. The light blade was even faster, but it could not change its direction to track the opponent. It seemed like the White Tiger killing skill was superior, but the power of the White Tiger killing skill was weaker. Even if one was hit, It would not be fatal if the difference in skill was not too big. The light blade would be fatal as long as it hit a vital point. However, for the White Tiger sect, which was one of the 4 major sects, even if they were shot in a vital spot, they would still be able to survive with the help of a pill and recover. Bang! Chu Li was hit by the White Tiger killing skill again. At the same time, a cold lightning shot at Zhu Qing's other shoulder. Since both of his shoulders were injured, the White Tiger killing skill could not be performed as quickly. Chu Li used his strong recovery ability and swung his left hand before the White Tiger killing skill could reach him. Zhu Qing kept changing his position to prevent Chu Li from hitting him, just like how people in the past would dodge bullet. Chu Li circulated the nature restoration manifestation in his mind. After 2 attacks, it was enough for him to predict. A cold light appeared in his left hand at Zhu Qing's chest. At the same time, his right hand flashed. To avoid the flying knife from his left hand, Zhu Qing dodged and the flying knife from his right hand shot at the center of his chest. Zhu Qing looked down at his chest in disbelief. He had experienced the light blade before, so he knew that the way to restrain it was to keep moving and move irregularly. He had to fly randomly so that his opponent would not be able to aim at him. He could not wait for the flying knife to be shot before he could dodge it. His light body technique was excellent, and he could change his position extremely quickly. Initially, he thought that the flying knife would not hit him, but he did not expect to be hit. Chu Li swung his knife again. This time, he used flying snow and shot it at his throat. Then, he strode toward him and cut off his head with his sword. He reached out to summon the flying knife that had fallen to the ground and shook it. Instantly, it was as clean as new and there was not a single drop of blood on it. Meng Wu and Tan, who did not escape the fate of being decapitated. Their heads were separated from their bodies, and they could not be more dead. Chu Li stood in front of the Roaring Tiger clan and laughed. Awesome! Awesome! White Tiger sect people, come again if you're not afraid of death. I'll be waiting for you. After he said that, he strode away. The people of the Roaring Tiger clan watched helplessly. They kept quiet out of fear and did not dare to make a sound. A towering mountain was shrouded in clouds. Above the clouds, the mountain peak was covered in ice and snow. It was crystal clear and looked dreamy. At the peak of the mountain formed by ice and snow, there was a row of magnificent palaces that shone brilliantly under the sun. It looked like the residence of a celestial being. In the middle of the hall, it was brightly lit. The saint, Sun Mingyue, was sitting behind a desk in the middle of the hall and going through dossiers. She wore a snow-white gown and a white veil that covered her face, revealing her beautiful almond-shaped eyes. She looked elegant and graceful just by sitting there. Li Ruolin, who wore a bluish-white gown, gracefully entered the hall and curtsied. Saint, there's news from Gale City. Zhao Dai killed Tan Hu, Meng Wu, and Zhu Qinyu. Sun Mingyue looked up. Li Ruolin replied, it should be. He killed 2 of the 8 Grand Elders? Sun Mingyue asked. Li Ruolin nodded. His light blade has been cultivated to the 8th level. I'm afraid that the people of the White Tiger sect never expected to encounter such a light blade. Sun Mingyue nodded. The light blade was one of the antique studies of the Holy Church of Light. It was powerful, but the highest level it could be performed in front of outsiders was only the 6th level. She had never performed the light blade in front of anyone. The power of the 8th level of the light blade was worlds apart from the 6th level. The light blade was faster and more powerful. The White Tiger power could not block it, so it was only natural that it was defeated by Zhao Dai. My saint, Zhao Dai is in danger now. Li Ruolin frowned. 2 elders and a youth champion had died. Tan Hu might be the future sect leader of the White Tiger sect. How could the White Tiger sect not go crazy? They must kill Zhao Dai no matter what. Otherwise, the White Tiger sect would lose all its dignity. He has the light blade to protect him. It's fine, the saint said. Li Ruolin quickly said, My saint, the light blade isn't invincible. They were caught off guard earlier. Now that they're prepared, they can put on their armor or take out their shield. The light blade will be weakened. If they attack again, Zhao De will be in danger. No matter how powerful the light blade was, it could not bend. As long as one had a top-notch shield, even if it could not completely block the light blade, they could still kill Zhao De as long as they did not die. No matter how powerful Zhao De's light blade was, his cultivation level had not reached its peak. If the masters of the White Tiger sect attacked at the same time, they could definitely kill Zhao De with the White Tiger killing skill. What do you have in mind? Sun Mingyue asked. Li Ruolin said, why don't we ask Zhao De to retreat? Sun Mingyue glanced at her. Have you fallen for him? Chapter 801. Sun Mingyue had a faint smile on her face. He's such a powerful man. It doesn't matter if you fall in love with him. He doesn't look good, but he's kind and has a bright future. It might be a blessing to be with him. Li Ruolin quickly said, Saint, I'm not interested. We're just ordinary friends. Alright, ordinary friends. Sun Mingyue scoffed. Don't be so hesitant. Someone might snatch him away. Whoever wants to snatch him can have him. I won't take him, Li Ruolin quickly said. Sun Mingyue said, I hope you won't regret it. What about Zhao De? Li Ruolin asked. Sun Mingyue shook her head. Don't worry about him. Let's see what happens to him. But, Li Ruolin said anxiously, White Tiger sect will kill him sooner or later. Let's see if he can survive this, Sun Mingyue said. Li Ruolin looked at her helplessly. Sun Mingyue said, Don't disturb him. Let him think of a way himself. Yes. Li Ruolin sighed. Go. Sun Mingyue waved her hand. Li Ruolin walked out of the basilica listlessly. She stood at the entrance and turned to look at the crystal-clear ice peaks around her. Then, she lowered her head to look at the mountains and shook her head. The next few days were peaceful. Ko Qiong and the others had already found a residence. A cunning rabbit has 3 burrows, so they had prepared everything in advance. Chu Li hid in the residence and cultivated. He wanted to increase his cultivation level as quickly as possible in preparation for the upcoming battle. He could imagine that White Tiger sect would hunt him down and they would not stop until they killed him. Chu Li cultivated in peace. He had a taste of Ko Qiong's cunning. The Radiance clan had been destroyed, but they were not injured at all. They had even secretly stolen some valuable items. They had snatched food from the Roaring Tiger clan's mouths, but they had not been dealt with. Chu Li did not care whether they lived or died. If they died, then so be it. After all, they were people who deserved to die, so it would be better if they survived. It would also save him a lot of trouble, and he would not have to look for them anymore. As for how they did things, as long as they did not do evil, he could not be bothered. In the evening, Chu Li sat in the gazebo. Ko Qiong and the others quickly came with lunch boxes. They opened the boxes and placed a few delicious dishes on the table. Chu Li took the chopsticks from Ko Qiong and glanced at the 3 of them. Did you do something bad again? Hee hee. The 3 of them smiled sheepishly. Chu Li scoffed. He. Well. Ko Qiong looked at him and said gingerly, We went to Roaring Tiger Clan. And then? Chu Li picked up a piece of beef and chewed it slowly. Ko Qiong said cautiously, We asked them for some money to spend. How much did you ask for? Chu Li asked. 100,000 taels, Ko Qiong said. Chu Li glanced at the 3 men. Ko Qiong said embarrassedly, 130,000. You're quite thoughtful. Chu Li scoffed sarcastically. Just ask for your own. I don't have to worry about it. Hall Master is wise and mighty. How can we hide from him? The 3 of them hurriedly said. Chu Li said coldly, You should know that those who use my name will die faster. Hall Master is now famous throughout the city. No one dares to go against him. Lu Shu chuckled. Roaring Tiger Clan became obedient once we mentioned your name. They used to be the tyrant of Gale City. Chu Li said, Once someone from White Tiger sect comes, you'll be in trouble. Hee, as long as Hall Master doesn't lose, we'll be safe. Lu Shu laughed. Chu Li glanced at the three of them and waved his hand. Alright, don't do such things again. Get lost. Hall Master, you've been training too hard. Do you want to relax? Lu Shu chuckled. How about going to Gale City to see the beauties? How beautiful are they? Chu Li scoffed. Zhao Dai was a young man from Peacetown. He had never seen the outside world and was not tempted by prosperity. It would be strange if he did not see the beauties. Lu Shu laughed. Hall Master, you'll definitely be satisfied. We've seen them once. Ko Cheong said, Hall Master, White Tiger Sect isn't the only sect in Gale City. Flaming Sun Sect and Tian Luo Sect also have territories, but they're not as powerful as Roaring Tiger Clan. If Hall Master can unite with Flaming Sun Sect and Tian Luo Sect, Radiance Clan will definitely be able to stand firm. Unite with them? Chu Li frowned and shook his head. Rumor had it that the Radiance Clan was annihilated back then. It was most likely because of the alliance between the three sections. The Holy Church of Light was now powerful and had become the common enemy of the other three sections. Hall Master, before you killed the two elders of White Tiger Sect, Flaming Sun Sect and Tian Luo Sect definitely looked down on you. However, it's different now. If you discuss with them about dividing Gale City among the three sects, they'll definitely be tempted. Humans are greedy by nature. Ko Cheong said. Feng Wuji said, according to the information we've gathered, White Tiger Sect is arrogant and domineering. They've been unpopular for the past few years. The disciples of Flaming Sun Sect and Tian Luo Sect have suffered a lot. They've been secretly fighting with White Tiger Sect. I'm just afraid that once they face us, the three sects will join forces, Chu Li said. Not necessarily. Feng Wuji said, according to our investigation, the Phoenix Goddess Brothel is owned by the Tian Luo Sect. Clan leader, you can take a look around and see what the Tian Luo Sect is up to. Maybe they want to use you to destroy the Roaring Tiger Clan. That's right. The Hall Master is now the sharpest blade in the world. Everyone wants to borrow it, Ko Cheong said. Chu Li pondered for a moment and nodded. All right, let's go to the Phoenix Goddess Brothel tonight. The three of them immediately beamed with joy. Chu Li glanced at them and scoffed. The three of you don't have to follow me. Hall Master, have you been to a brothel? No. Chu Li shook his head. If you don't know the rules, you'll be ripped off, Ko Cheong hurriedly said. Chu Li scoffed. It doesn't matter. I still have the 100,000 taels that you guys stole anyway. Hall Master, our 100,000 taels of silver might be a lot in other places, but in the Immortal Phoenix restaurant, it's not considered a lot. The people who go there are all rich and respectable. Ko Cheong said, I'm afraid we can only go there a few times with 100,000 taels of silver. Chu Li curled his lips and said, 10,000 taels of silver should be enough to redeem a beauty, right? The three of them shook their heads. Chu Li waved his hand. Forget it. Gather? Bao-yi? Shao Xiarui gadolinium? Ko Cheong beamed with joy while the other two sighed helplessly. They had secretly gone to the brothel when Chu Li was not around. Once Chu Li returned, the three of them would have to be at his beck and call. They would not have the time to go to the Immortal Phoenix restaurant. They had been itching to go there for a long time. When the lanterns were first lit, Gale City was brightly lit and livelier than it was during the day. Chu Li was dressed in a white robe and held a white jade folding fan in his hand. Ko Cheong followed behind him. The two of them stood in front of a colorful building and listened to the sounds of stringed instruments and melodious singing. It was a scene of luxury. A servant came out and led the two of them to the second floor. The first floor was the main hall with many tables. It was considered a restaurant. One could eat and drink here and call for girls to accompany them. The second floor was a small room where one could call for girls to accompany them, listen to them sing, or watch them dance. As for the third floor, one had to be qualified to go there. Ordinary customers were not allowed to enter. Chuli sat there without saying a word while Ko Cheong took care of things. A few girls dressed in muslin entered. These girls were average-looking and dignified. They sat quietly behind the silk curtains and began to play a song. Chapter 802. Chuli glanced at her and nodded. "Are you a dancer?" He could see that Yu-Ru had a voluptuous figure and there was an inexplicable rhythm to her gait. It was obvious that she had undergone strict training and had integrated dancing into her every move. She was definitely a skilled dancer. "Yes, I'm a dancer." Yu-Ru smiled sweetly. Chuli looked at her. "All right then, dance for me." Miss Yu-Ru was beautiful and there was a hint of slyness and quick-wittedness in her bright eyes. "Yes." Yu-Ru smiled. "What dance would you like to see, young Master Zhao?" "I don't know anything about dancing. You can dance whatever you're best at." "I'd like to broaden my horizons." "Yes." Yu-Ru chuckled. The women sitting behind the curtains began to move. The music started and a gentle and calm voice echoed in the air. Yu-Ru danced gracefully like a graceful spirit crane stretching its wings. She was graceful and calm, which stunned Chuli. This was the first time he realized that someone's dance could be so lively. It was truly a skillful dance. If he cultivated the 6 forms of spirit crane, he would definitely be able to advance very quickly. He stared intently at Yu-Ru. Yu-Ru's movements changed along with the music. Her movements were sometimes light and sometimes heavy. Chuli's heart rose and fell along with her dance. He glanced at Ko Cheong who was behind him and frowned. Ko Cheong's eyes lit up and he looked intoxicated. His body moved slightly but he was completely immersed in the dance. Chuli waved his hand in front of Ko Cheong's eyes but Ko Cheong ignored him and continued to stare at Yu-Ru. Chuli sighed to himself. As expected of the Tian Luo sect, this dance had the effect of confusing one's mind. It would be a piece of cake to kill Ko Cheong now. Yu-Ru danced along with the music. Her bright eyes changed along with her every movement. Sometimes she was excited, sometimes she was desperate, sometimes she was passionate, sometimes she was cold, and sometimes she was desperate. In the beginning, the music was gentle but it gradually changed to the sound of metal clashing. Chuli raised his eyebrows. Yu-Ru's movements became forceful and her rhythm quickened. Her expression became fearful and desperate as if she was in the middle of a battlefield. Chuli narrowed his eyes and stared at her. He did not move an inch, but the omniscient mirror was watching Ko Cheong. His emotions were changing accordingly, and his inner energy was stirring, moving along with the music like the ebb and flow of the tide. However, Chuli did not feel anything strange about himself. Chuli possessed the omniscient mirror and Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture, so the Tian Luo sect's dance and music had no effect on him. It was no different from a normal dance. Yu-Ru was so engrossed in her dance that she did not pay any attention to Chuli and Ko Cheong's situation. She believed that after this song, the two of them would lose their ability to fight back. As the music grew louder and louder, she danced more and more intensely. Her movements were strong and forceful, just like a man. It was like a man on the battlefield facing the charge of thousands of soldiers and horses. Trapped in a desperate situation, knowing that he was no match for the enemy, he still fought until the last moment. The music stopped abruptly. Yu-Ru suddenly stopped moving as well. She was panting and sweating profusely. She bowed to Chuli and retreated gracefully. When she saw that Chuli was clear-headed and completely fine, she was shocked but her expression remained calm. She retreated without hesitation. The rest of the girls who were playing the zither also left gracefully, and the room immediately became quiet. Chuli turned around and patted Ko Cheong. Ko Cheong spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale. Chuli curled his lips and looked at him. How useless! After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Ko Cheong regained his senses and said guiltily, "Clan leader, I've miscalculated." Chuli asked, Is this the martial art of the Tianluo sect? Ko Chiong nodded. It's the musical assassination technique that can hurt without leaving a trace. Chu Li scoffed. You know that this is the Tianluo sect's territory, so why didn't you guard against it? I couldn't help it. Ko Chiong shook his head and smiled bitterly. I've been guarding against it, but I didn't expect to be so fascinated by it. Chu Li said, Looks like you'll have to fall for it next time. Ko Chiong nodded helplessly. This is the scary thing about the Tianluo sect. You know that it's a killing technique, but you can't guard against it. This Miss Yu is very interesting, Chu Li said. Is she famous in the Phoenix Goddess brothel? Yes, Ko Chiong replied. Miss Yu is very famous in Gale City. Chu Li scoffed. Looks like they came prepared. They're testing us. Ko Chiong chuckled. That's a good thing. It shows that they value the clan leader. That's true. I'd like to see what the Tianluo sect is up to. Chu Li waved his folding fan. Yu entered the room gracefully. She had changed into a light green gown and her hair was wet. Her body carried a faint fragrance after a bath. She bowed to Chu Li. I'm sorry for neglecting you, young Master Zhao. Chu Li asked, Miss Yu, what song was that just now? The formation-breaking song. Yu pursed her lips and smiled. I didn't expect young Master Zhao to have such a strong willpower. You're not affected at all. Chu Li pouted. I don't know anything about music. Yu said, the more one doesn't know about music, the more they'll react to this song. Young Master, your follower doesn't know anything about music either, right? Ko Chiong coughed softly and nodded. Yes, he doesn't. Chu Li scoffed. Do you have any more powerful songs? The one just now was quite nice. Oh! Yu was surprised. She raised her eyebrows and smiled. Young Master Zhao, aren't you afraid of getting hurt? Chu Li snorted. I haven't heard a song that can hurt me yet. Young Master Zhao, since you're so bold, Yu can only play along. Yu chuckled and clapped her hands. A young lady came in with an exquisite pipa and handed it to Yu. Yu sat on the opposite stool and covered half of her beautiful face, revealing only her bright eyes. She smiled and said, Yu will play a song for you, young Master Zhao. All right. Chu Li nodded casually. Clang, 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 clang. The rapid sound of the pipa sounded like the clatter of a horse's hooves. Suddenly, a murderous aura surged toward them. Ko Chiong's spirit was lifted and his eyes glowed. Chu Li nodded. An expert could tell the moment they played. Yu's plucking of the pipa was enough to shake one's soul. Then, the sound of the pipa was like a rainstorm hitting a banana leaf. It was rapid and dense, continuous, making it hard for one to breathe. However, every sound reached the bottom of one's heart and made one's heart beat faster. Chu Li's expression remained the same. Ko Chiong's face turned red and his eyes glowed brightly. He could not suppress his murderous aura and was ready to kill at any moment. As the sound of the pipa continued, Ko Chiong's face became redder and redder. Pfft! Ko Chiong spat out a mouthful of blood and his face quickly turned pale. Chu Li shook his head. Yu gently closed her eyes and plucked the strings with her slender fingers. Her movements were light and agile, as if she was dancing on the strings. Pfft! Ko Chiong spat out another mouthful of blood, and his expression became even more ghastly. He had regained his senses, but he still could not stop the damage caused by the sound of the pipa. His internal organs were trembling and his blood flow and heartbeat were being controlled by the sound of the pipa. Clap, clap. Chu Li folded his fan and slapped his palms twice. Chapter 803. P.S. 6 minutes complete. Chu Li's two gentle pats were like two streams of inner energy entering his body. His organs immediately calmed down, his blood flow and heartbeat returned to normal, and all the strange sensations and pain disappeared. Ko Chiong was even more in awe of Chu Li. This clan leader was truly powerful. Yu pressed her hands on the strings and the music stopped. She glared at Chu Li angrily. Young Master Zhao, you're so powerful. How dare you say that you don't understand music? Chu Li replied, I really don't understand. I was just randomly patting. The musical assassination technique of Tianluo sect is really powerful. Kills people without leaving a trace. If it were used on the battlefield, wouldn't it be more effective? Yuru shook her head. A battle formation can break the musical assassination technique. Chu Li asked, Miss Yuru, what's your status in Tianluo sect? I'm an official disciple of Tianluo sect, Yuru answered. Chu Li was surprised. An official disciple? Why don't you cultivate in the mountains then? Isn't it too unfair for you to stay here? Only by living in the secular world can you see through people's hearts and truly master the essence of Tianluo sect's martial arts. Yuru shook her head. Tianluo sect's martial arts can't be cultivated in the mountains. No wonder. Chu Li suddenly understood and curled his lip. If that's the case, it's far worse than the Holy Church of Light. Our official disciples have a very high status and are much stronger than you guys. That's not entirely true. Yuru smiled sweetly. Although we live in the secular world, we compete with ourselves, unlike the disciples of the Holy Church of Light who have to compete with other disciples to the death. It's very tragic. It's not tragic, Chu Li replied. Yuru said, there's a competition every 5 years. Only the top 5 outer mountain disciples can become inner mountain disciples. The competition is very fierce. That's fair. Chu Li smiled. It's a competition of martial arts rankings. Whoever is more capable will become an inner mountain disciple. No one can say anything. It's a fight to the death. Yuru shook her head. It's a competition between fellow disciples. There's no such thing as friendship. Alright, the Tianluo sect is indeed not bad. Chu Li smiled. You're not thinking of letting me join the Tianluo sect, are you? Our Tianluo sect does not accept male disciples. Yuru smiled sweetly and said, Young Master Zhao, you've caused a huge disaster, but you're still able to sit here calmly and not worry at all. Yuru admires you. You mean kill those 3 guys? Chu Li pursed his lips. If I don't kill them, they'll kill me. It's either you die or I die. I can only kill them. It's not a big deal if the White Tiger sect wants to avenge them. Young Master Zhao, do you think that you can defeat the White Tiger sect? Of course. Hee hee. Yuru giggled. Young Master Zhao is so funny. Chu Li said seriously, I'm not joking. I can defeat them. Yuru asked, Can Master Zhao defeat the White Tiger sect on his own? The White Tiger sect had been destroyed a long time ago. Do you really think that you can kill all the other elders just because you've killed 2 of them? Moreover, he learned from the sect leader of the White Tiger sect. Chu Li replied, Of course. Yuru shook her head and said, I know that young Master Zhao's light blade is powerful, but there's no such thing as an invincible martial art. There are many ways to restrain the light blade. As far as I know, the White Tiger sect specializes in researching ways to restrain the martial arts of the Holy Church of Light. They've refined a few sets of White Tiger armor. As long as they wear the White Tiger armor, the power of the light blade will be reduced by half. Chu Li scoffed and asked, Do they wear armor from head to toe and even cover their faces? Of course. Yuru nodded and said, Only their eyes are exposed. Chu Li frowned. Yuru said, Moreover, among the 8 Grand Elders, each of them has a higher cultivation level than the next. I heard that 2 of the 8 Grand Elders are more than 300 years old. They're unfathomable. Chu Li frowned and asked, What's the purpose of telling you all this? We can help you, Yuru said. How? We can help you escape the White Tiger sect's pursuit. If I want to hide, I can just leave Gale City. The world is so big, where would they find me? Young Master Zhao, you've underestimated the White Tiger sect. They have the White Tiger soul-tracking technique. Unless you return to the Great Light Peak, they won't be able to do anything to you. As long as you don't enter the Great Light Peak, they'll be able to track you down no matter where you go. Can you escape the White Tiger soul tracking technique? Of course. What's the condition? Young Master Zhao, you just have to promise not to attack the disciples of the Tian Luo sect. That's impossible. Chu Li shook his head. If the disciples of the Tian Luo sect fight against me, I can only be beaten up. In that case, we'll change it to not hurting the disciples of the Tian Luo sect. Then, can the disciples of the Tian Luo sect attack me without restraint? I can't hurt you anyway. Chu Li shook his head and said, this condition is too unreliable. Let's talk about something more reliable. If it's reliable, it'll be to help us do something. What is it? Kill an elder of the White Tiger sect. Who? Tan Jin. His surname is Tan as well? What's his relationship with Tan Hu? It doesn't matter. Yu Ru shook her head gently and said, he killed one of our sisters, but he's an elder and has always stayed in the White Tiger sect. We can't kill him, but I'm guessing that he'll come over this time. If I kill him, you'll help me escape? As long as young Master Zhao agrees, there's no need to kill him this time. Aren't you afraid that I won't do it after agreeing? We believe in young Master Zhao. Alright, I agree, Chu Li said. Yu Ru instantly smiled. Thank you, Master Zhao. Chu Li said, as long as you don't sell me out. Young Master Zhao need not worry about this. Yu Ru said, we won't get anything out of selling young Master Zhao to the White Tiger sect. The White Tiger sect has been getting more and more overbearing in recent years, and they don't respect us at all. Chu Li smiled. Alright, I'll trust you this time. He stood up and said, I've said what I needed to say. Let's go. Why doesn't young Master Zhao stay for the night? Yu Ru smiled sweetly and said, although I'm only a performer and not a performer, I can still talk about the martial arts world with you, young Master Zhao. Or, I can ask my other sisters to come over and sing a song for us. Chu Li shook his head and said, I need to cultivate quickly. Then, he patted Ko Chiong. Let's go. Ko Chiong quickly stood up and opened the door for him. Yu Ru quickly said, young Master Zhao, you should stay here now. Don't go back. Chu Li turned to look at her. Yu Ru said, young Master Zhao, it's no longer safe there. We don't know when they'll come. They might even be able to sneak in without us noticing. Why don't you stay here from today onwards? Ko Chiong quickly said, clan leader, Miss Yu Ru is right. Chu Li frowned and thought about it. Can we find a quiet place? Of course. Yu Ru smiled sweetly. I'm just afraid that young Master Zhao won't be able to stand the silence. I'll be fine as long as I can cultivate in peace, Chu Li said. Young Master Zhao, please follow me. Yu Ru stood up and walked out. The two of them followed behind her. Yu Ru suddenly stopped when she was about to leave and looked at Ko Chiong with a smile. Ko Chiong tactfully said, clan leader, I won't be going then. Chu Li turned to look at him. Ko Chiong chuckled. Don't worry, clan leader. We'll leave Gale City immediately. Chu Li said, we'll be back in a month. Yes. Ko Chiong nodded. Chapter 804. Chu Li followed Yu Ru up to the third floor and entered a room. His surroundings suddenly became quiet, as if all sounds had disappeared and he was completely isolated from the world. He could hear his own breathing clearly. Chu Li looked at Yu Ru in shock. Yu Ru smiled sweetly. This is a Sumeru formation. It's a world of its own that is completely isolated from the outside world. As long as you stay here, the White Tiger sect's White Tiger soul tracking technique will not be able to find you. Chu Li asked, is the Tian Luo sect proficient in formations? Of course. Yu Ru smiled. The formation path is also one of the cultivation methods of the Tian Luo sect. Unfortunately, the aptitude required to study formations is too high and almost no disciples are able to learn it. However, the legacy of our ancestors still exists. Chu Li asked, How many formation masters are there in the Tian Luo sect? 2, Yuru replied. Are you interested in formations too, young Master Zhao? Chu Li nodded. It's very magical. I want to learn it too. Sure. Yuru smiled. Formations are different from other martial arts. It's not forbidden to teach it to outsiders. If you can learn it, it'll be your own fortune. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Isn't formation the ultimate study of your sect? Yuru shook her head. Our sect has the sect guarding formation, but the formation path isn't one of them. If you want to learn the formation path, I can get you some books. However, the formation path is too profound and unpredictable. It's enough to make one's head explode, so I won't be able to study it. Thank you very much, Chu Li said. Yuru shook her head. Young Master Zhao, you'll feel very bored here. Time passes very slowly. It's not a bad idea to study formations to kill time. Chu Li nodded. Yuru said, the White Tiger sect will probably give up after a month. Young Master Zhao, you can stay here for a month. I won't implicate you, will I? Chu Li asked. Yuru chuckled. We're allies with the White Tiger sect. We'll fight the Holy Church of Light together. Chu Li asked, is hiding me a personal grudge? Yes. Yuru nodded. Tan Jin has a blood feud with me. I have to avenge him. Chu Li said slowly, I'll kill him. Yuru smiled sweetly. Young Master Zhao, I'm afraid that you're no match for him with your current martial arts skills. If you want to kill him, you'll have to wait until the future. He's that powerful. He's one of the top elders in the White Tiger sect. He's much more powerful than Zhu Qinyu. Yuru pointed at a thin rope in the corner of the wall. Pull this rope if you need anything. I'm the only one who can enter this place. No one else can. Chu Li nodded. Yuru curtsied and retreated gracefully. Chu Li looked at the Sumeru formation. This formation was indeed mysterious. When he first entered, the omniscient mirror could not detect its existence. Now that he was in the middle of the formation, he could still use the omniscient mirror to observe his surroundings without any obstruction. It was like a one-way shield. He watched as Yuru gracefully left the room and arrived at another room on the 3rd floor. She entered the room and curtsied. Master. Sitting cross-legged on the bed in the room was a beautiful young woman with a graceful figure. She was like a ripe peach, and there wasn't a single part of her body that didn't emit an alluring aura. She opened her eyes and glanced lazily at Yuru. Has he hidden himself? Yes. Yuru nodded obediently. Master, why do you want to help him? What do you think? The beautiful young woman asked lazily. Yuru shook her head. I don't understand. After all, he's a disciple of the Holy Church of Light. He'll be our opponent in the future. The 4 major sects have been fighting each other for so many years. The beautiful young woman said, There's no need to worry about the sects being wiped out. It's all a battle of interests. The Holy Church of Light is powerful because they're relying on the Li dynasty's imperial court. The 3 major sects are small, so they can only work together to fight against the Holy Church of Light for their own interests. However, the 3 major sects won't be united when it comes to interests. Yes. Yuru nodded. The 3 major sects had their own interests. Moreover, they had different ways of doing things and philosophies, so there were conflicts between them. The beautiful young woman said, So don't be so stubborn. Forming an alliance means that you'll really hate the Holy Church of Light. If there's a chance to befriend them, why not? Master, are you saying that he's an important figure in the Holy Church of Light? Yuru frowned. He doesn't look like one. He's more like an abandoned pawn. She felt that Zhao De was foolish and did not have a good appearance. He did not give people a good impression and did not seem like an important figure. Without the spirit of an important figure, she felt that it would be difficult for him to achieve great things. The beautiful young woman said, That's because you don't understand how the Holy Church of Light trains their disciples. The Holy Church of Light is extremely strict with their disciples. Compared to them, The disciples of the Tian Luo sect are like flowers in a greenhouse. No matter how I look at it, he'll definitely die, Yu Ru said. The beautiful young woman said, the Holy Church of Light trains their disciples by putting them in a desperate situation to stimulate their potential and find the strongest disciple. This is how they train their disciples. As for whether they die or not, it all depends on their luck. The Holy Church of Light won't save them. How cruel! Yu Ru curled her red lips disapprovingly. How many disciples will die? How can they be loyal? Instead of dying in the future, it's better to die early. The Holy Church of Light is ruthless. The beautiful young woman scoffed. However, this method gives us a chance to befriend the disciple of the Holy Church of Light. He'll provide timely help when he's in trouble. In the future, when he becomes an important figure in the Holy Church of Light, the Holy Church of Light's attitude toward the Tian Luo sect will be affected. Master, do you really think that Zhao Dai will become an important figure in the Holy Church of Light? My premonition is very accurate. He'll be a powerful figure. Treat him well, the beautiful young woman said. Befriend him and you'll benefit greatly in the future. Yes, thank you, Master. Yu Ru nodded. He wants to study formations. The beautiful young woman scoffed and said, give him an introductory book on formations. Let's see how capable he is. She waved her hand as she spoke. Yes. Yu Ru agreed and curtsied before she left. As soon as she closed the door, the room disappeared from Chu Li's omniscient mirror. He could not see it anymore. It was obvious that this beautiful young woman's room was also protected by a formation. Chu Li raised his eyebrows and retracted the omniscient mirror. Just as he had expected, Miss Yu Ru had not fallen in love with him at first sight or simply wanted to avenge herself. Instead, she had been ordered by her master to save him. Yu Ru's master was planning to burn the midnight oil stove and bet on him. She had a good eye. Soon Yu Ru returned with a few yellow silk books and placed them on the study table. She smiled sweetly and said, these are the introductory books on formations. Why don't you take a look at them first, young Master Zhao? If you're able to understand them, you can read more about formations. All right, thank you, Miss Yu Ru. Chu Li gave a fist salute. Yu Ru smiled sweetly and said, if young Master Zhao can master formations, you'll have a higher chance of defeating Tanjin. Yes. Chu Li nodded. Chapter 805. Yu Ru curtsied and excused herself. Chu Li picked up the silk books and flipped through them thoughtfully. These books were introductory formations. They were much simpler and more obvious than the ones he had read before. If he had read these books back then, it would not have been so difficult to learn the basics and he would have been able to understand them at once. The Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture had indeed increased his intelligence. Now, he could read these books with ease and could see through them at a glance. He was tempted to delve deeper. To avoid shocking the world, he could only suppress this desire and cultivate the Great Light Scripture first. As he progressed in the Great Light Scripture, his divine light body became stronger. The divine light body was indeed mysterious and could not be compared to ordinary body tempering technique. The stronger the divine light body, the faster his speed, his strength, his reflexes, and his resistance to damage would be. The next morning, Yu Ru opened the door and entered with a lunchbox. When she opened it, there were a few exquisite dishes inside. Chu Li got off the bed and sat down at the table. Miss Yu Ru, you just have to send me food every 3 days. Is young Master Zhao cultivating some secret skill? How can you not be hungry? Once I start cultivating, I usually meditate for 3 days, Chu Li replied. 3 days. Yu Ru's eyes flashed and she smiled. All right, I'll send you food every 3 days so that I won't disturb your cultivation, young Master Zhao. She was secretly surprised that Zhao Dai was a genius. She had never heard of anyone who could cultivate for 3 days in one go. He usually cultivated 2 or 3 times a day and did not cultivate for too long. Chu Li smiled and said, "These introductory formations books are good. I've finished reading them." Yuru quickly gathered her thoughts and smiled. "Can you understand them?" "Yes, I can." Chu Li nodded. "They're quite fun. Are there any more difficult ones?" "You understand them?" Yuru stared at him. Chu Li nodded. "Yes, they're not difficult, right?" "All right, these books are introductory. They're not difficult at all." Yuru took a deep breath and smiled sweetly. "I'll bring a few more books later. They'll be more difficult." She secretly decided that she would bring a few difficult books over to properly deal a blow to his arrogance. This was simply too infuriating. Chu Li said, "Thank you very much. I'll go get it now." Yuru placed the dishes on the table and left gracefully. After a while, she returned and took out 3 thick silk books from her sleeve. She handed them to Chu Li. "This should be enough for you, Master Zhao." Hee. Chu Li was overjoyed at the sight of his prey and could not help but smile as he said excitedly, "Thank you, Miss Yuru." When Yuru saw that he could not wait to flip through the dishes, she forced herself not to look at them. Instead, she lowered her head and wolfed down the food like a hungry wolf. In a short while, she had finished all the dishes on the table. Yuru tactfully kept quiet. She cleaned up the bowls and chopsticks, picked up the lunchbox and left. Chu Li hurriedly opened the silk booklet and began to flip through it. From the low-level 3 Sun formation to the high-level small Meru formation, all of them were exquisite beyond compare. However, there was no Sumeru formation like Yuru had mentioned. Chu Li was already very satisfied. He had never thought that he would be able to obtain these formation books. Formation books were very rare in the Ji dynasty. He flipped through them page by page and imprinted all the formations in these 3 silk books into his mind. He wanted to slowly study them after he was done. It would take him a while to study them. The wonders of formations were like the wonders of mathematics. They were very addictive and he loved studying them. However, he used his rationality to pull himself back from studying them. He needed to focus on his cultivation. His top priority was still to cultivate. A week later, at night, the Phoenix Goddess brothel was unusually lively when the lanterns were lit. The sound of stringed instruments and singing lingered in the air. A handsome middle-aged man stepped into the Phoenix Goddess brothel. He had a square face and big ears. His gaze was sharp and he had a dignified aura. It was obvious that he was someone who had been in a high position for a long time. He immediately asked to see Miss Yuru. The servant had a good eye and did not dare to neglect him. He brought him to a room on the 2nd floor. Miss Yuru gracefully entered the room. When she saw the man, her expression changed slightly. Then, she smiled sweetly. "Greetings, sir. Is this your first time at the Phoenix Goddess brothel?" The middle-aged man waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "My surname is Tan. My name is Tan Jin. I'm an elder of the White Tiger sect." "Oh, it's Elder Tan. My apologies." Yuru curtsied. Tan Jin asked, "You must be a disciple of the Tianluo sect, right?" Yuru nodded and said, "To tell you the truth, I'm indeed a disciple of the Tianluo sect. What can I do for you, Elder Tan?" "Who's your master?" "My master is Bai Feng." Tan Jin frowned. He was afraid of this name. He said slowly, "I haven't seen Elder Bai for a few years. How has she been?" "My master is healthy, just like before," Yuru replied. Tan Jin said, "Since you're one of us, I won't beat around the bush. Zhao Dai has been to the Phoenix Goddess brothel, right?" "Yes." Yuru nodded. "I personally received him. He disappeared ever since he entered the Phoenix Goddess brothel." Tan Jin stared at her. His eyes were bright as if he could see through her. Yuru was shocked. "Disappeared? Elder Tan, do you think that we've killed him?" Tan Jin said, "If your sect kills Zhao Dai, the White Tiger sect will reward you handsomely. We want to kill him too, but unfortunately, we don't have the ability to do so." Yuru shook her head and sighed. He's indeed a powerful person. We used the musical assassination technique, but he's surprisingly strong. He wasn't hurt by the musical assassination technique. Humph! Tanjin sneered. He's indeed difficult to deal with. Yu said. He didn't turn on us. He just left and I don't know where he went. Did he escape? Tanjin shook his head. He's in Gale City. If I were him, I would have escaped and returned to the Great Light Peak. Yu frowned. Why are you still staying here? He won't escape if he wants to revive the Radiance clan, Tanjin said. He's probably hiding somewhere. Yu shook her head. The White Tiger sect has many spies. As long as he hasn't left the city, we'll definitely be able to find him. I didn't expect him to be such a powerful person. I thought he was just a madman. We'll find him sooner or later, Tanjin said. However, I'm afraid that someone might be hiding him on purpose. As he spoke, he stared daggers at Yu. Yu said, who in Gale City would be so bold as to hide someone that the White Tiger sect wants to kill? If I find out who's protecting him, I won't show any mercy. I'll destroy their entire clan, Tanjin said coldly. His gaze swept across Yu's face. Yu pretended to be unaware and chuckled. I'd also like to know who would be so bold. Humph, there's always someone who's not afraid of death. Tanjin sneered. Yu nodded. If that's the case, very well. Tanjin stood up and straightened his robes. Let me know if there's any news. All right. Yu nodded. Chapter 806. Crash. She swept her hand across the table, causing everything on the table to fall onto the carpet. She picked up the vase and smashed it against the wall. Crash. The vase shattered into pieces. She picked up another vase and smashed it against the wall. Crash. The vase shattered into pieces again. Her slender, jade-like hand fiercely slammed the table, and with a crash sound, the table turned into a pile of fragments. She then slammed another table, which shattered into pieces as well. In just a short while, the entire house had been turned into a pile of ruins. Apart from the house, nothing else was left. Not a single piece of furniture was left intact. Her beautiful face was flushed and her chest was heaving up and down as she panted. She had bitten her red lips until they bled. After a while, she calmed down and tried to take a few deep breaths to calm her anger. Then, she arrived at Chu Li's house. Chu Li glanced at her and said calmly, "You don't look well. Did someone from the White Tiger sect come?" "Yes." Yu nodded. "It's Tanjin. He's alone?" Chu Li asked. Yu nodded. Chu Li smiled. "What's wrong with the White Tiger sect? They're so arrogant. Last time, it was 2 elders and 1 disciple. Why is there only 1 elder this time?" "Because this elder can defeat the other 2 elders." Yu scoffed. "Tanjin's martial arts is very powerful," Chu Li said. "It seems like he can restrain my light blade." "He must be wearing white tiger armor," Yu said. "You have to be careful." Chu Li smiled. "I'd like to see his white tiger armor." "Don't go out yet." Yu shook her head. "His martial arts is very powerful. You're no match for him now. You'll have to wait until the future to kill him." "I'll forgive him for 2 days then." Chu Li scoffed. "I'll destroy him." Another week had passed. Tanjin had been searching for Chu Li in Gale City. He had mobilized all his spies and searched every inch of Gale City. He had the White Tiger soul-tracking skill, but he could not sense Zhao Dai. There were only 2 possibilities. One was that Zhao Dai was hiding in the Great Light Peak, and the other was that he was hiding in a formation. After thinking about it, only the Tian Luo sect had the ability to set up a formation in Gale City. However, why would the Tian Luo sect help Zhao Dai? Tanjin could not figure it out no matter how hard he thought about it. The Tian Luo sect should be on the same side as him. Although he had killed a disciple of the Tian Luo sect many years ago, no one knew about it. Therefore, the Tian Luo sect could not possibly fall out with the White Tiger sect and help Zhao Dai. That evening, the sun was setting. He was drinking alone in a courtyard of the Roaring Tiger Hall. Suddenly, he sensed Zhao Dai's presence. He put down the wine glass and stood up. In a flash, he disappeared from the courtyard. In the time it took to take a few breaths, he was already in front of a forest outside the city. He looked at Chu Li, who was standing on top of a tree. This forest was lush and luxuriant, an ancient forest that had been formed for several hundred years. Every single tree was thick and tall, reaching straight into the clouds. Chu Li stepped on the treetops high above. A gust of wind blew, causing the treetops to undulate. He swayed up and down along with it, as if he had become one with the soft branches. Under the setting sun, his white robes fluttered in the wind, giving him a natural and unrestrained air. It was a pity that his ugly face ruined some of it. "You're Zhao Dai?" Tan Jin looked up and asked in a deep voice. Chu Li replied, "You're Tan Jin. Good lad, you know my name." Tan Jin scoffed. "You killed Tan Hu, Meng Wu and Zhu Qinyu?" "That's me." Chu Li replied, "They wanted to kill me, so I had no choice but to kill them if I wanted to live. Are you here to kill me as well?" Tan Jin replied, "That's right." As soon as he finished speaking, he joined his hands together and then separated them. Two tiger silhouettes instantly appeared in front of Chu Li. They were incredibly fast and were not inferior to his light blade. Chu Li had already activated the light blade just as Tan Jin was tempted. As soon as the two tiger silhouettes appeared, his hands flashed and the light blade shot out. Before the tiger silhouettes could reach Chu Li's chest, the light blade had already hit Tan Jin. Tan Jin was hit by the light blade, but he only took a step back. At the same time, he directed the tiger silhouettes to attack Chu Li. Chu Li disappeared in a flash and reappeared 100 feet away. As soon as he reappeared, the tiger silhouettes had already landed on him. Bang! Chu Li was sent flying and crashed into a huge tree. The towering tree, which was so thick that it would take two people to wrap their arms around it, shook violently. Chu Li was unable to break free from the tree and was stuck in the trunk. He felt as if his internal organs were being overturned. The divine light body could not block this tiger silhouette. Tan Jin's cultivation level was truly shocking. Tan Jin lowered his head to look at his robe and smiled. Chu Li frowned and glared at him. Tan Jin said, "Zhao Dai, this robe of mine is a rare treasure that has been passed down since ancient times. It's said that it's woven from the silk of floating silkworms. It's invulnerable to weapons, water, and fire." Chu Li scoffed. "What a white tiger sect! This is the foundation of the 4 major sects," Tan Jin said. "If you're powerful in martial arts, you'll have a lot of good stuff. Your light blade is powerful, but it can't break through this treasured robe woven from the silk of floating silkworms." Chu Li said, "Your head isn't wearing a treasured robe. That depends on what you're capable of, ha ha." Tan Jin laughed loudly and clasped his hands together. Instantly, 2 tiger silhouettes appeared in front of Chu Li without giving him any time to react. Chu Li slid down and barely dodged the tiger silhouettes. Bang! Bang! The tiger silhouettes hit the giant tree and let out a muffled sound before they exploded into dust. The power of the tiger silhouettes was shocking and far beyond what Zhu Qinyu and the other 2 could achieve. Chu Li moved behind the tree in a flash. With the giant tree in his way, Tan Jin could not see Chu Li and could not order the tiger silhouettes to chase after him. Tan Jin scoffed and took a step forward to hide behind the giant tree. He noticed that there was no one behind the tree. Chu Li had disappeared. He shook his head. Since Chu Li had appeared, it would be impossible for him to escape. He activated the White Tiger soul tracking skill and noticed that Chu Li was behind him. He clasped his hands together and separated them before another 2 tiger silhouettes appeared and shot toward the giant tree behind him. Chu Li shrunk his body and the two tiger silhouettes hit the tree again, causing it to explode into dust. Chu Li then used the giant tree as a cover and kept changing his position. In a short while, 12 tiger silhouettes exploded. This was the battlefield that Chu Li had carefully chosen. It could minimize the power of the white tiger killing skill, and it seemed like it was working. Tan Jin noticed Chu Li's evil intentions and stopped using the white tiger killing skill recklessly. Instead, he flew into the air and looked down from above so that Chu Li would have nowhere to hide. Then, he could use the white tiger killing skill with half the effort. Swoosh! As soon as he leaped up, a cold glint shot toward his throat. His hair stood on end as he desperately tried to turn his body sideways. Swoosh! The cold glint brushed past his chest and landed on the ground. If he was not wearing the treasured clothing, this slash would have cut his stomach open. Swoosh! Another cold glint pierced through his head. Tan Jin reacted quickly and lowered his body. Bang! He was hit by a powerful force from his neck and fell to the ground again. He was secretly shocked. Zhao Dai's light blade was stronger than the information he had received. It was incredibly fast and impossible to defend against. If he was not wearing the treasured clothing, he would have died. Chu Li laughed loudly and said, "The White Tiger sect is just SOSO." He glided away as soon as he finished speaking. Tan Jin sneered and took a few steps forward to catch up to Chu Li. The two of them headed up the mountain. Tan Jin sneered as he released Tiger Silhouette. He could see Chu Li. The tiger silhouettes instantly hit Chu Li's back and sent him flying into the air. Chu Li's forward speed increased instead. Chapter 807. Humph! Tan Jin curled his lips and shook his head. He did not think much of Chu Li's petty tricks. If his cultivation level was not high enough, he would only be successful for a while. In the end, he would not be able to escape. He suddenly sped up and shrank back to 10 meters. Tan Jin was just about to unleash the white tiger killing skill when he suddenly felt goosebumps all over his body. He hastily ducked his head. Chi! A patch of hair on the top of his head was cut off, and he was in a sorry state. The speed of the light blade was unbelievably fast. It was a matter of life and death if he were to exchange blows with it. Due to his scruples, he did not dare to get too close to avoid the attack. He was wearing a treasured robe, but his head was not protected. If he was hit by the blade, he would lose his life. However, the long distance also gave Zhao Dai the opportunity to dodge the white tiger killing skill. Fortunately, the white tiger killing skill could turn and chase after him continuously. As the two of them chased after each other, they soon reached the top of the mountain. Chu Li's body movement technique was extraordinarily fast, and he did not seem to be injured at all. It was as if the person who had spat out blood earlier was not him. The divine light body was exceptionally tough. Tan Jin harumphed. Zhao Dai, even if you run to the ends of the world, you won't be able to escape from me. Chu Li sneered. You really dare to boast. I don't need to run to the ends of the earth. All I need to do is run back to the Great Light Peak. Will you be able to chase after me? You wouldn't dare even if I gave you 10 guts. As he spoke, he sped along. His voice was steady, and he didn't seem injured at all. Tan Jin frowned as he stared at Chu Li's back. Zhao Dai's cultivation level was beyond his imagination. He did not seem like a young man but more like a cunning old man. Tan Jin had to kill him today. Tan Jin said, if you could escape to the Great Light Peak, you would have done so a long time ago. Why would you wait until now? That's right, I won't return to the Great Light Peak. I won't leave Gale City until I rebuild the Radiance clan. Chu Li scoffed. Tan Jin sneered. You have ambition. Then die. He clasped his hands together and was about to pull them apart to form 2 tiger shadows. Chi! A bolt of cold lightning appeared in front of him. Tan Jin couldn't care less about the white tiger killing technique anymore. He lowered his head abruptly, and a few more locks of hair fell off his head. He felt a faint nausea in his chest, and he felt vexed and uncomfortable. The white tiger killing technique had been interrupted when he was caught off guard, so it was a taboo. In his frustration, his murderous intent grew, and he became a little impulsive. He took a deep breath and suddenly sped up, closing the distance between him and Chu Li to 5 meters. He clasped his hands together again. Chi! A bolt of cold lightning struck his throat. He didn't even have time to react before his throat was stabbed. In an instant, a violent surge of qi drilled into his throat and traveled up to his brain. Tan Jin let out an angry roar, and the silhouette of a tiger appeared in the sky like a real white tiger. Then, it pounced down from the sky like a ferocious tiger pouncing on its prey. The tiger's shadow pounced into his body, and the wound on his throat instantly stopped bleeding. Chu Li frowned. He did not expect such a strange technique to exist. Tan Jin's aura was monstrous. He was like a ferocious tiger that pounced at him. Chu Li shot out another flying blade. Tan Jin's reaction was incredibly fast. He swatted away the flying dagger with a palm and continued to pounce. Chu Li saw that the situation was not good, so he turned around and left. Tan Jin took 2 strides to Chu Li's back and struck him with his palm. Bam! Chu Li was like a rubber ball that was thrown out. He was instantly hit far away and spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. Tan Jin took another step forward and arrived in front of him. He struck out with his palm again. His movements seemed calm, but they were incredibly fast. Chu Li could predict it through the manifestation of nature restoration, but he could not dodge it. Tan Jin's movements were too fast and exceeded his reaction time. He could only watch helplessly as he was beaten. Bam! Chu Li was struck again. He flew far away and spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. He felt like a prey that was being toyed with by a ferocious tiger. He could not control his own fate. This feeling almost made him want to use his divine power. Tan Jin shot at him again. His eyes were bright. The knife earlier did not seem to have affected him at all. The wound on his throat was not bleeding, and the inner energy that had drilled into his body had been expelled. It did not hinder his movements at all. He was as fast as lightning, and his reflexes were incredibly fast. He was actually able to swat away or dodge Chu Li's flying daggers. When he got closer, Chu Li's left hand flashed coldly. The flying dagger instantly shot towards Tan Jin's throat. Tan Jin easily raised his arm and used his sleeve to block his throat. Chu Li's right hand flashed coldly at almost the same time. Tan Jin had just loosened his arm and pulled down his sleeve when the flying dagger arrived. It narrowly passed through the protective sleeve and pierced his throat again. A violent inner energy immediately drilled into his mind. His movements paused for a moment. In that split second, Chu Li's right hand flashed coldly and appeared in front of Tan Jin's eye. Ah! Tan Jin roared angrily as his body swayed. The flying dagger pierced through his eye socket and came out from the back of his head, drawing a stream of blood. Tan Jin was in unbearable pain. The violent inner energy drilled into his head, and the pain was 10 times worse than the rest of his body. He could not help but stop moving again. Chu Li's left hand flashed coldly and shot Tan Jin's other eye. His right hand flashed coldly and shot Tan Jin's mouth again, piercing through his throat and the back of his head. Ah! Tan Jin roared as he collapsed. Chu Li spat out a mouthful of black blood and collapsed as well. Tan Jin fell to the ground and twitched slightly. How interesting! Suddenly, a laugh rang out. A figure suddenly appeared in the distance. He glided over on the treetops and arrived before them in the blink of an eye. It was an old man with white eyebrows and a maroon complexion. He was grinning at Chu Li and Tan Jin. Chu Li frowned as he looked at him. Then, he closed his eyes and channeled to heal himself. He had long seen this sneaky fellow, but he had no time to pay attention to him. Tan Jin's cultivation level was extremely profound, and Chu Li was slightly weaker than him. If it were not for the light blade, he would have been defeated by Tan Jin today. The light blade alone was definitely not enough to defeat Tan Jin, and he also had the help of the manifestation of nature restoration and the omniscient mirror. He had grasped the precise timing of his flying daggers, and was often able to catch a big opponent with a small one. Just like the old man in front of him, the timing of his appearance was too accurate. The red-faced elder didn't want him to continue healing, so he shook his head and said, "You're so young, yet you already have such a high cultivation level. You really make us old guys feel ashamed." Chu Li did not say a word and continued to heal himself. The red-faced elder shook his head and sighed. "That's why you can only die. Perish together with Tan Jin. There's nothing better than that." Chu Li raised an eyebrow and opened his eyes. "You don't dare to offend the White Tiger sect or the Holy Church of Light. Who exactly are you?" "Hee, I'm just an idler," the red-faced old man said with a smile. Chu Li scoffed in disdain. "An idler? Since when did the Flaming Sun sect have idlers?" "Oh?" The red-faced elder raised an eyebrow and said in surprise, "You may look silly, but you're a smart and powerful person." Chu Li asked, "You dare to kill me?" "I don't dare to kill you." The elder from the Flaming Sun sect shook his head and said with a smile, "But the White Tiger sect and Tan Jin do." "I can kill Tan Jin, but I can't kill you?" Chu Li asked coldly. The red-faced elder shook his head and laughed. "That's not necessarily true," Chu Li said. "Even if I'm injured, killing you is still a piece of cake." The red-faced elder chuckled. "Young man, you're just stalling for time. Your injuries are very serious, aren't they? Go ahead and try then." Chu Li scoffed. The red-faced elder looked at him cautiously but did not dare to get too close. Even Tan Jin had died by his blade, so the light blade's power made him very fearful. Chu Li curled his lips and said in disdain, "Old man, you're a disgrace to the Flaming Sun sect with your guts." Chapter 808. Chu Li did not dodge. As the palm energy was about to hit him, he suddenly put his palms together and separated them. A tiger silhouette instantly appeared and shot toward the red-faced elder. The red-faced elder was shocked. "You!" He dodged the tiger silhouette in a flash. Bang! Chu Li was sent flying. The red-faced elder sighed in relief, but the next moment, a cold bolt of lightning pierced through his throat. The red-faced elder widened his eyes in disbelief. The tiger silhouette that had been chasing him crashed into his back with a loud bang and flew toward Chu Li. Chu Li rolled on the ground and struggled to stand up. He put his palms together and separated them again. A tiger silhouette appeared between his palms and struck the elder's back again. When he first met Fong Qingyang, he could not see the heart technique of his martial arts because of the divine light body. However, he could see the heart technique of the White Tiger sect members. He had learned the White Tiger killing skill long ago but had never used it. Zhao Dave did not have this ability. Now that there was no one around, he could not help but want to try it out. It was indeed amazing. The red-faced elder was about to channel his energy to lock his throat and take out the spirit medicine when the tiger silhouette interrupted him. Bang! The red-faced elder landed heavily on the ground. Chu Li took a deep breath and spat out another mouthful of blood. The red-faced elder's internal energy was profound. His earlier attack had worsened his injury. He sat cross-legged on the ground but was not in a hurry to treat his injury. Through the omniscient mirror, he saw Yu-Ru rushing over from afar. A moment later, Yu-Ru, who was dressed in a green outfit, approached him valiantly and anxiously asked, "Young Master Zhao, are you all right?" Chu Li shook his head. "I won't die. Tan Jin is over there. Go and take a look." "Thank you, young Master Zhao." Yu-Ru's expression changed, and she quickly glided toward Tan Jin. Tan Jin looked miserable, but Yu-Ru was enjoying the sight. "Is he really dead?" Yu-Ru asked. Chu Li replied, "He should be completely dead. Miss Yu-ru, please take off his robe. I want to keep it." "Okay." Yu-ru nodded. She was not afraid of Tan Jin's miserable appearance. She clumsily took off his robe and handed it to Chu Li. Chu Li said, "This is a treasure robe that can block my flying blade. It can't be left outside." "That's an impressive treasure robe," Yu-ru praised. Chu Li nodded lightly. Yu-ru said, "Then let's hurry back and recuperate." Chu Li shook his head. "I'll heal myself here. I'll need to retrieve my flying blades later. These are treasured blades that can cut through iron like mud. What if someone else comes?" "I'm not afraid," Chu Li said. He closed his eyes and began to circulate his energy. When Yu-ru arrived in front of the red-faced old man, she cried out involuntarily when she saw his face. "Pang Jinshui!" Chu Li ignored him. Yu-ru looked at Pang Jinshui's injuries and then looked up at Chu Li. Chu Li closed his eyes to cultivate. Soon, white steam rose from the top of his head and became thicker and thicker until it covered his face. Yu-ru turned to look at Pang Jinshui in confusion. Judging from his injuries, there were injuries from flying daggers as well as injuries from the white tiger killing skill. The wounds inflicted by the white tiger killing skill were extremely easy to recognize. There would be the outline of a white tiger on the wound, and one would be able to tell at a glance. It was obvious that Pang Jinshui had arrived a step ahead of him. He could imagine that Pang Jinshui would suffer the flying daggers. The Flaming Sun sect was in cahoots with the White Tiger sect, so it was only natural that he would help Tan Jin kill Zhao Dai. But why were there injuries from the White Tiger killing skill on his body? Could Tan Jin have regarded him as an enemy? No matter how she thought about it, she could not explain it. Judging from his injuries, Tan Jin and Zhao Dai must have regarded him as an enemy. Could it be that he had wanted to kill both of them while they were injured? Was that why he was killed by their joint attack? Chu Li did not use the life and death scripture. Instead, he relied on the divine light body and the great light scripture to heal his injuries. Even so, his injuries healed at an incredible speed. The divine light body was extremely powerful, and it healed very quickly after being injured. The Buddha in the void of his mind kept chanting the great light scripture and Mahavairokkana's immobility scripture. The lotus flowers formed from the Buddhist scriptures seemed to be real and fell on his body. Coupled with the heavenly demon scripture, the lotus flowers formed from the three scriptures kept falling on his body, and his body healed rapidly. An hour later, the white steam on top of Chu Li's head quickly converged and turned into more than 10 strands that entered his hair. He slowly opened his eyes. There was a flash of light in his eyes before it slowly disappeared. Yu-ru hurriedly asked, "Are you feeling better?" Chu Li stood up. "I'm fine now." He slowly walked toward Tan Jin's corpse. With a flash of cold light from his waist, he cut off Tan Jin's head with his long sword. "He's dead now." Yu-ru looked at him in confusion. Chu Li scoffed. "The White Tiger sect might have a way to resurrect him. I can only be at ease after I cut off his head." His long sword flashed again and Pang Jinshui's head was also cut off. Then, he sheathed his sword. "Let's go and pick up my flying blades." He glided forward and occasionally waved his hand. A flying blade would fly up from the ground and fly into his hand like a swallow flying into the forest. From the top of the mountain to the foot of the mountain, Chu Li collected the flying blades along the way. Fortunately, he had an extra set of flying blades, or he would not be able to keep throwing them. If he ran out of flying blades halfway through the fight, it would be fatal. Yu-ru was speechless as she watched. She had been staying in Gale City for a long time. Although she did not have much contact with the Holy Church of Light, she vaguely knew that the light blade could not be used more than a few times because it consumed a lot of energy. On the other hand, Zhao Dai had used countless blades. Chu Li let out a long sigh of relief and put the flying blades back into the leather sheath on his wrist. He had finally retrieved all of them. If someone happened to pick them up, He would be heartbroken. Yu asked, "Young Master Zhao, how are your injuries?" She noticed that Chu Li did not look too good. Chu Li took a step forward and covered a distance of more than 10 meters. It was as if the ground had shrunk to an inch. He looked very carefree as he shook his head. "It's just a small injury. I'll be fine in a few days. Follow me back." Yu floated gracefully in the wind. She said softly, "Now that Tan Jin is dead, the White Tiger sect will really go crazy." Chu Li scoffed. "That's all there is to it." Although he said that, he was secretly in awe. Tan Jin's cultivation level was really powerful, and he had a hard time winning. If there were someone more powerful, it would be hard to say. Yu said, "Tan Jin is wearing the treasured clothing, but he's not wearing the White Tiger armor. If someone else comes wearing the White Tiger armor, it'll be very troublesome." Chu Li looked at the treasured clothing he was wearing. "This treasured clothing is very powerful too." He did not mind that it was worn by a dead person and immediately put it on. He felt much more at ease. "This treasured clothing is powerful, but it doesn't protect the throat and head. That's why you were able to get it, young Master Zhao," Yu said. "The White Tiger armor only covers the eyes." Chu Li frowned. "The White Tiger armor is better than the tortoise shell." Yu pursed her lips and chuckled. "Whether it's the White Tiger armor or the tortoise shell, it can restrain the light blade." "Alright, let's go back to the Phoenix Goddess brothel," Chu Li said. At this time, the sky was turning dark and the surroundings were gloomy and dim. By the time they entered the town, the lanterns had already been lit. The two of them entered the Phoenix Goddess brothel through the back door. When they reached the 3rd floor, Chu Li returned to the room where the Sumeru formation was set up. Yu poured him a cup of tea and handed it to him. She hesitated for a moment before asking, "What's up with that Peng Jinshui from the Flaming Sun sect?" "He's trying to take advantage of the situation." Chu Li took the teacup and took a sip. "How can it be so easy to take advantage of the situation? This guy is too greedy." "That's strange." Yu nodded. This time, the Flaming Sun sect and the White Tiger sect are going to be very lively. Chapter 809. P.S. Update complete. Yu chatted with him for a while before she tactfully retreated from the house so that Chu Li could focus on his recovery. For the next few days, Chu Li stayed in the house to recuperate. Yu would come over once every 3 days to deliver food. Other than that, she would not disturb him. Chu Li could tell that Yu had become much friendlier toward him. It was obvious that she was grateful to him for killing Tan Jin. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. After Chu Li had finished healing his wounds, he immersed himself in cultivating diligently to improve his great light scripture. The White Tiger sect would never give up. Next time, they would send even more powerful masters who might even be wearing White Tiger armor. It would be very difficult for him to defeat them with his light blade. He would need to fight them head-on and rely on his cultivation level. When the lanterns were first lit, 2 old men slowly stepped into the Phoenix Goddess restaurant. The 2 old men were very conspicuous when they stood together. One was tall and the other was thin and small. It was as if an adult was walking with a child. However, both of them had a dignified aura around them that made others not dare to make fun of them. When they arrived at the Phoenix Goddess brothel, a servant came forward to welcome them. The short old man said, "We want to see Yu." "Miss Yu? Alright, follow me." The manservant hurriedly led the 2 into a room on the 2nd floor. Soon, Yu gracefully entered the room. She was dressed in a plain and clean gown. She curtsied and smiled sweetly. "Greetings, masters. We're from the White Tiger sect," the short old man said. "Miss Yu, you're a disciple of the Tianluo sect, right?" Yu nodded gently. "So you're a senior from the White Tiger sect." "Please excuse me. I'm a disciple of the Tianluo sect. May I know what business both of you have with me?" "Tan Jin came to see you, right? Elder Tan?" "Yes." What did he say? Ask me about Zhao Dai's whereabouts. Nothing else. Yuru shook her head. I once took advantage of Zhao Dai's arrival and plotted against him. Unfortunately, the musical assassination technique was ineffective against him and I couldn't kill him. He immediately fled and I haven't seen him since. I haven't seen Senior Tan for the past few days either. Tan Jin is dead. The short old man said in a deep voice, I'm Zhou Ningyi. I have a few questions for you. Do you really not know where Zhao Dai is? Yuru was stunned. Why do you say that, Senior Zhou? Someone saw you deliver food to the person on the 3rd floor. Zhou Ningyi snorted. Who is this person? This. Yuru shook her head. Forgive me for not being able to answer your question. You're Zhao Dai, right? Zhou Ningyi asked coldly. Yuru bit her lower lip and shook her head gently. No. It seemed like the White Tiger sect had a spy in the Phoenix Goddess brothel. The Phoenix Goddess brothel belonged to the Tian Luo sect. The White Tiger sect had actually bribed spies in the brothel. What was their motive? Take us there. The tall old man said coldly, I'm Fu Yu, you should have heard of me. So, it's Senior Fu. Yuru's heart skipped a beat. She had indeed heard of Fu Yu's name. He was ruthless and ruthless. You have a grudge against Tan Jin, don't you? Fu Yu asked. Yuru was stunned. Why do you say that, Senior Fu? I've never seen Senior Tan before. What grudge do we have? Humph, the vengeance for my father's death is absolutely irreconcilable, Fu Yu said coldly. There's nothing strange about you helping Zhao Dai for the sake of revenge. A confused expression appeared on Yuru's face. Senior Fu, I don't understand what you're saying. What do you mean by killing my father? Fu Yu stared at her intently and shook his head. Take us to the 3rd floor. We'll meet the person who has been delivering meals to you. Please forgive me for not being able to comply. Yuru shook her head. Fu Yu said coldly, Do you dare disobey me? Senior Fu isn't a senior of my sect. Why should I listen to you? Yuru shook her head calmly. How dare you? Fu Yu said in a low voice. Do you think that I won't dare to teach you a lesson? Yuru said, although the White Tiger sect is powerful, the Tian Luo sect isn't a pushover either. If Senior Fu wants to teach me a lesson, I'll let the seniors of my sect seek justice from you. How naive. Fu Yu sneered. I'd like to see who dares to seek justice from me. As soon as he finished speaking, he put his palms together and a lifelike tiger silhouette suddenly appeared. It was like a real white tiger and suddenly shot toward Yuru. Yuru's graceful and delicate body swayed like a lotus flower on the surface of the water to avoid the attack. However, the tiger silhouette was agile and continued to chase after her. Yuru shifted her position several times in the room, but in the end, she still could not avoid the tiger silhouette. With a loud bang, she was sent flying and crashed into the door. Senior Fu, you're so powerful. A cold and delicate voice was heard as a beautiful young woman suddenly appeared and stood in front of the two men. My disciple is a bully and she's attacking someone as she pleases. Bai Feng. Zhou Ningyi and Fu Yu frowned. Bai Feng sneered and said, Senior Fu, what did Yuru do wrong for you to hit her? This little girl is arrogant and rude. I'm disciplining her on her behalf. Fu Yu scoffed. Bai Feng said coldly, Disciplining her on my behalf? You're an old fart. You're neither her senior nor her relative. What right do you have to discipline her? Bai Feng, don't be presumptuous. Fu Yu shouted. No matter how presumptuous I am, I won't be as presumptuous as you. Bai Feng scoffed. You're just taking advantage of your seniority. Who do you think you are? Bai Feng, stop talking. Zhou Ningyi waved his hand. It's just a small lesson. She won't suffer any serious injuries. Yuru had already stood up. She felt a tightness in her chest, and her internal organs were slightly injured. Bai Feng glared at Zhou Ningyi with her beautiful eyes. Old man Zhou, You're pretending to be a good person again, as if this has nothing to do with you. How did my disciple offend you? Hee, it's all a misunderstanding. Zhou Ningyi waved his hand and smiled. A misunderstanding. The two of them immediately realized that they had misunderstood. Yuru had obviously sent food to the third floor for her master, Bai Feng. Bai Feng scoffed. So my disciple has been beaten up for nothing? I'll go to the White Tiger sect's territory and teach your disciple a lesson. I'll say it's a misunderstanding too. Stop fooling around. Fu Yu scoffed. Did you guys see Zhao Dai? Yes, we saw him. Bai Feng nodded. Not only did we see him, but we also helped him deal with Tan Jin. We've gained a lot from killing Tan Jin. Are you happy now? Bai Feng, stop fooling around. We have to find Zhao Dai, Zhou Ningyi said. Bai Feng scoffed. How am I fooling around? He beat up my disciple. Can't I say anything? The White Tiger sect is used to being domineering. Are you trying to unify the three sects? Even the Holy Church of Light isn't that bold. All right, that's enough. Zhou Ningyi waved his hand and said, Yuru isn't injured either. Do you guys know where Zhao Dai is? The White Tiger sect has informants everywhere. How can we know? Bai Feng said impatiently, the White Tiger sect is so arrogant. You can't even deal with a mere disciple from the Holy Church of Light. How dare you come here and teach my disciple a lesson? Fu Yu's expression was cold. He knew that he could not get entangled with Bai Feng. Otherwise, there would be no end to it. Her master was the sect leader of the Tian Luo sect, and she was extremely protective of her disciples. If he had known that Bai Feng was here, he would not have attacked her. He would have just threatened her. Chapter 8:10. Only formations can hide from the White Tiger's soul-tracking skill. Zhou Ningyi sighed. I'm sure he hasn't returned to the Great Light Peak, but we can't find him. He must be hiding in a formation. Elder Zhou, are you saying that only the Tian Luo sect knows formations in Gale City? Bai Feng frowned and scoffed angrily. Why didn't I know that the Tian Luo sect is so powerful? There are others who know formations, but not many of them, Zhou Ningyi said. Bai Feng looked sarcastic. There are many people in the Tian Luo sect who know formations. Zhou Ningyi was speechless after being rebuked. Everyone knew that although the Tian Luo sect also cultivated formations, they cast a wide net and did not expect to catch any fish. There were only 1 or 2 people in the Tian Luo sect who knew formations, and most of them stayed in the sect. Even if they were not in the sect, they would not come to Gale City, and would stay in Blessing City or Tianhua City. The Flaming Sun sect knows formations too. Bai Feng said coldly, why don't you suspect the Flaming Sun sect instead of me? Do you think that we're pushovers because we're all women? What are you talking about? Zhou Ningyi waved his hand and smiled. That's not what we meant. We're just here to take a look before going to the Flaming Sun sect. Fu Yu's expression darkened at the mention of the Flaming Sun sect. Bai Feng scoffed. The Tian Luo sect has always played its part. It seems like you're treating this as a sign of weakness. Fine, I'd like to see what you're capable of, Senior Fu. All right. Zhou Ningyi smiled and waved his hand. We actually believe you. The Flaming Sun sect. The Flaming Sun sect has formation masters too. Everyone knows how ambitious they are. How can they let go of this opportunity? Bai Feng curled her peerlessly beautiful red lips and harumphed. If it was me, I would have gone over and asked them to hand him over by now. It might not be the Flaming Sun sect. Zhou Ningyi shook his head. You know Pang Jinshui, right? Bai Feng scoffed. That guy is the most annoying. He's cunning and greedy. He's dead. Zhou Ningyi said. There are injuries from the Light Blade and White Tiger killing skill on him. He must have been killed by Zhao Dai and Tan Jin. What did he do? He wants to kill the two of them. Bai Feng replied angrily. If Tan Jin wants to kill him, He must have done something that betrayed the White Tiger sect. If Zhao De wants to kill him, it'll be the same. I'm guessing that he's the one who hid Zhao De and then sold him out. Bai Feng, you're really imaginative. Zhou Ningyi could not help but laugh. He seemed to be deep in thought. But you're right about one thing. The people of the Flaming Sun sect are getting more and more impatient. The White Tiger sect had lost 3 elders, and their strength had been greatly damaged. The Flaming Sun sect would definitely want to replace them. All these years, the Flaming Sun sect had been dissatisfied with their status and wanted to be the leader of the 3 sections. However, the White Tiger sect had always been suppressing them. Now that the opportunity had finally come, how could the Flaming Sun sect let it go? The way I see it, killing Zhao De is not a big deal. Taking care of the Flaming Sun sect is a big deal. Bai Feng curled her red lips and scoffed. Zhao De is a disciple of the Holy Church of Light. If you really want to kill him, will the Holy Church of Light not act? You've already lost 3 elders. If the Holy Church of Light takes care of another 1 or 2, how can the Flaming Sun sect not rebel? If we don't kill Zhao De, how will the White Tiger sect maintain its prestige? It's not embarrassing to be defeated by the Holy Church of Light. Bai Feng scoffed. I've asked around. Zhao De was originally a sect disciple from a town. He had a fortuitous encounter and became an outer mountain disciple of the Holy Church of Light. He broke through to the Grandmaster's boundary within a few months. He's a genius. As long as the Radiance clan is rebuilt, he'll definitely return to the Great Light Peak and become an inner mountain disciple. He can't stay in Gale City forever. He's a scourge, Fu Yu said coldly. If we don't kill him now, we won't be able to kill him in the future. Bai Feng cast a sidelong glance at him and sneered. There are many masters that the Holy Church of Light can't kill. Priest and altar leader, who can you kill? Fu Yu snorted and did not say anything. Bai Feng said, judging from Zhao De's acting, he'll definitely climb to the top in the Holy Church of Light. It's not embarrassing for the Roaring Tiger clan to be defeated by him. It's not like you haven't suffered such losses before. How many times have you been defeated by Sun Mingyue? How can he be compared to Sun Mingyue? Fu Yu scoffed. Bai Feng said, in any case, I'm doing this for your own good. Don't go down a blind alley and end up benefiting the people from the Flaming Sun sect. We're not that stupid. Fu Yu scoffed. Bai Feng's intentions might not be as pure as she thought. The Flaming Sun sect was overbearing, and the Tian Luo sect had suffered quite a bit as well. She was trying to get someone else to do her dirty work and fan the flames. Zhou Ningyi said, we're in a difficult position now. Are we supposed to admit defeat to an outer mountain disciple of the Holy Church of Light? Bai Feng scoffed. How much will you lose if you kill him? He's not that easy to kill. Ah. Zhou Ningyi sighed. How can someone like him be an outer mountain disciple? Another Sun Mingyue. Fu Yu scoffed. As an outer mountain disciple, Zhao De was able to kill an elder of the White Tiger sect. His qualifications must be extremely high, and his future was limitless. Once he became an inner mountain disciple, no one knew what kind of master he would become. When that time came, it would be even more difficult to control him. They had to kill him now. All right, I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. The Phoenix Goddess Brothel doesn't welcome you. Goodbye, I won't see you out. Bai Feng waved her hand and said angrily, I'll let it go this time. If this happens again, I'll teach your disciples a lesson 10 times worse. Once she finished speaking, she helped Yu up and glided away. Fu Yu frowned and glared at them. Zhou Ningyi said, Brother Fu, forget it. Let's go. Is there something wrong with them? Fu Yu scoffed. Zhou Ningyi shook his head and said, whether there's anything wrong with them or not, we can't really attack them. We can't suppress the Flaming Sun sect anymore, and if we become enemies with the Tian Luo sect, we'll be in a bad situation. We have to be careful. This Zhao Dai. Fu Yu gritted his teeth. Bai Feng's words aren't unreasonable. Zhou Ningyi sighed. If we can't kill him this time, we'll just ignore him. Fu Yu scoffed. I think we'll be able to kill him this time. There's nothing we can do if we can't even kill him with 4 elders working together. Zhou Ningyi said. Brother Zhou, you're afraid. Fu Yu scoffed. I think there's something wrong with this Zhao Dai. He had a fortuitous encounter and he's so powerful. Zhou Ningyi shook his head. I'm just afraid that he's another Sun Mingyue. Sun Mingyue was a rare genius. They said that Zhao Dai resembled Sun Mingyue, but that was just an analogy. They never really thought that he was as powerful as Sun Mingyue. I don't believe it, Fu Yu said coldly. I must kill him. Our priority now is to find him, Zhou Ningyi said. We can't just stay here. What can we do? Fu Yu scoffed. If I find out who's hiding him, I won't let them off easily. Let's find him first. Zhou Ningyi sighed. The two of them left the Phoenix Goddess brothel helplessly. Chu Li frowned. The room he was in was right above Fu Yu and Zhou Ningyi's heads. His omniscient mirror could clearly see what they were thinking. The 4 Grand Elders were out to kill him. Yu Ru pushed the door open and entered with a smile. The elders of the White Tiger sect are here again. Chu Li nodded. They're downstairs, right? Yu Ru said. Master has tested them. They're determined to kill you this time. They might send more than 2 elders. Some of them are in the open while others are in the dark. You mustn't go out and avoid them. All right. Chu Li nodded slowly. Chapter 8:11. Yu Ru was surprised to see him agree so readily. She had thought that Zhao Dai would feel embarrassed when he heard what she said. He would feel that he had shown weakness and would insist on taking the initiative to attack them. She had prepared a lot of things to say to convince him. She told him not to be impulsive and that it was wise to know when to advance or retreat. She did not expect that she would not be able to use her words. She felt slightly disappointed. Chu Li looked at her and smiled. Miss Yu Ru, I'm not that stupid. I was lucky to be able to kill Tanjin. I'm no match for him based on my cultivation level and skills. Besides, he had the treasured clothing. Yu Ru smiled. Chu Li said, This time, they've sent 2 or more elders, and they're even wearing white tiger armor. If I go out again, it'll be no different from courting death. I still have many years to live, I don't want to die. Yu Ru burst into laughter. Her smile was beautiful and charming. She was amused by the words, many years to live. He was ugly, so it was funny to hear him say that he still had many years to live. They're all elders. They can't be away from the sect for too long. Chu Li smiled. I believe they won't stay for long. Master said the same thing. Yu Ru chuckled. After this incident, they might not even look for you again. That's for the best. Chu Li smiled. Yu Ru said, Master instigated a fight between them and the Flaming Sun sect. If that happens, he won't be able to take care of you anymore. It'll be difficult. Chu Li shook his head. Don't count on the Flaming Sun sect. I'll go into isolated cultivation for a month and see if they can hold on. Yu Ru smiled. That's for the best. A bright moon hung in the sky and its light shone on Gale City. Gale City was brightly lit and it was more prosperous than during the day. In a small courtyard in the Roaring Tiger clan, Zhou Ningyi and Fu Yu sat at the stone table in the middle of the courtyard. They each held a white jade wine cup and looked at the bright moon in the sky thoughtfully. After a while, Fu Yu said, After thinking about it, there's something wrong with the Tian Luo sect. It doesn't seem like the Flaming Sun sect. Zhou Ningyi nodded slowly and took a sip of wine. Pang Jinshui's death means that even if they were originally harboring Zhao Dai, they have now fallen out with him. Zhao Dai will no longer trust them. Fu Yu nodded. More importantly, that girl Yu Ru has a grudge against Tanjin for killing her father. How can she not seek revenge? But that Bai Feng. Zhou Ningyi hesitated. There is a way. Fu Yu snorted. Ask her out and lure her away from her territory. Then, cover her face and enter the Phoenix Goddess brothel. Search every room. I'm afraid Bai Feng will be able to tell. Zhou Ningyi sighed. She's extremely intelligent. So what if she knows? Fu Yu sneered. We won't admit it even if she beats us to death. What can she do? Even if sect leader Luo comes, we won't be afraid without evidence. Sect leader will back us up. Sigh. I really don't want to go against Bai Feng. Zhou Ningyi shook his head and smiled bitterly. She's a lunatic. She can't be judged by common sense. No matter how crazy she is, she won't dare to cause a scene, Fu Yu said. No matter what, we must kill Zhao Dai this time. All right, I'll listen to you, brother Fu. Zhou Ningyi put down the white jade cup and said in a low voice. Under the moonlight, his face was as solemn as still water. That night, Yuru received an invitation. Zhou Ningyi and Fu Yu had invited Bai Feng to admire the moon the next night and discuss the search for Zhao Dai. Yuru hurried to the third floor. Bai Feng was cultivating on the couch. She was dressed in a dark green gown. She took the invitation and glanced at it. Then she scoffed. They're inviting me to admire the moon. They're up to no good. Yuru said, they didn't fight with the Flaming Sun sect. Forget it. I'm not going. Bai Feng scoffed. Yuru was surprised. Can we not go? Bai Feng pondered and seemed to be lost in thought. Her eyes flickered incessantly like the stars in the night sky. After a while, she took out a thin booklet and a jade pendant from her inner pocket. Give this to Zhao Dai. Is this the stupefying howl? Yuru glanced at the thin booklet and looked at Bai Feng in surprise. Master, can this be taught to outsiders? It's not an earth-shattering antique study, Bai Feng said. He's extremely intelligent, so he should be able to learn it in no time. Yuru said, if he uses it, doesn't that mean that we're related to him? So what? Bai Feng scoffed. This is what I want. Yuru looked at her in confusion. Bai Feng waved her hand. All right, there's no point in talking about it. Also, this jade pendant can help him conceal his breath for 2 hours. After that, it will lose its effect. Yes. Yuru nodded lightly. She knew that her master did not have the patience to explain. She would have to figure it out on her own. Moreover, her master's ideas were imaginative, and she would not be able to understand them no matter how hard she tried. All she had to do was follow her master's instructions. After all, her master would not harm her. However, teaching the stupefying howl to outsiders was a violation of the rules of the Tian Luo sect. If the sect leader found out about it, he would punish her severely. In fact, since the sect leader was the Grandmaster, he would punish her even more severely. Master, are you going to admire the moon? Humph, why not? I must go. Yes. Yuru nodded and curtsied before she left. She arrived at Chu Li's room and gently pushed the door open. Chu Li put down his book and stood up with a smile. Miss Yuru. Yuru placed the thin booklet and the jade pendant on the table and said with a smile, This is a secret manual? Chu Li picked up the booklet and glanced at it. He was surprised. Is this a secret manual? The stupefying howl is a musical assassination technique. Yuru nodded lightly. It's also one of the secret skills of the Tian Luo sect. It's not easy to cultivate. If Master Zhao has the time, you can try cultivating it. This is the Sumer jade pendant. Yuru pointed at the crystal-clear jade pendant and said, It can conceal one's breath for 2 hours. After that, it will lose its effect and shatter. 2 hours. Chu Li nodded slowly. What happened? Yuru frowned. Zhou Ningyi and Fu Yu from the White Tiger sect just sent an invitation to Master to admire the moon tomorrow night. Chu Li asked thoughtfully, So Senior Bai gave me these? Yes. Yuru nodded. Chu Li said, Looks like the White Tiger sect is going to search the Phoenix Goddess brothel. That can't be right? Yuru was shocked. She frowned thoughtfully. Yuru was not stupid. She immediately understood what Chu Li meant. Master had guessed that the White Tiger sect was going to search the Phoenix Goddess brothel. Master Zhao could not hide it anymore and wanted him to leave. Chu Li said, "The White Tiger sect will use this trick sooner or later. Tell Senior Bai not to worry. I know what to do." Master Zhao. Yuru looked apologetic. Chu Li laughed. "Miss Yuru, I'm not going to leave the Phoenix Goddess brothel. 2 hours is enough. Think about it. Can't they finish searching in 2 hours? I'll come back after 2 hours." Yuru smiled sweetly and sighed in relief. Chu Li said, "Senior Bai is afraid that something might happen, so he asked me to cultivate the stupefying howl. I'll do as he says. Please thank him for me." Yuru nodded. She secretly sighed in relief and left. She initially thought that Master was chasing Zhao De away, but it seemed like she had misunderstood. She was too stupid, especially in front of Master. Chapter 8:12. Chu Li opened the booklet and flipped through the heart technique. After reading through it, he fell into deep thought. The stupefying howl was a complicated heart technique. Through the circulation of the heart technique, a strange force could be formed in one's dantian. When it was exhaled, it would sound like thunder and shake one's soul, causing one to lose focus. In a battle between masters, life and death could be decided in an instant. If the stupefying howl was used well, it would be more powerful than a hidden weapon and impossible to defend against. Chu Li was overjoyed. This was exactly what he needed. The combination of the stupefying howl and the light blade could maximize the power of the light blade when caught off guard. He focused on activating the heart technique and slowly circulated it. Finally, it condensed into a weak force in one's dantian. He gently opened his mouth and exhaled. Suddenly, a soft whistle was heard. The whistle sounded like a crane's cry. He shook his head in dissatisfaction and activated the heart technique again. After a while, he opened his mouth and let out another whistle. It sounded like a dragon's roar and sounded more dignified. Chu Li nodded thoughtfully. He had gotten the hang of it. Yuru pushed the door open and entered Bai Feng's room. She gracefully walked to the bed. "Master, will the White Tiger sect search the Phoenix Goddess brothel?" Bai Feng sat cross-legged on the bed with a book in her hand. She put down her hand and looked at her lazily. "Yes, you've finally guessed it. Young Master Zhao was the one who guessed it. This fellow is really smart." A smile appeared on Bai Feng's beautiful face. "I admire him more now. He said he'll go into hiding and wait for the White Tiger sect to leave before coming back." "That's good." Bai Feng nodded. "This fellow is smart and skilled in martial art. He has a bright future." "Yes." Yuru nodded. Bai Feng tilted her head and looked at her. "You don't like him?" "Master." Yuru was annoyed. "What are you saying?" "His looks are indeed a problem." Bai Feng shook her head and smiled. "Forget it then. Don't force yourself. He's smart, so we don't have to worry about him." "Master, the White Tiger sect is too much. This is the martial arts world. The strong are respected." Bai Feng said calmly. "They cover their faces and refuse to admit it. No one can say anything. If we're skilled enough, we'll be able to kill one of them on the spot. Unfortunately, we can't do that, so we can only endure." Yuru pursed her red lips and nodded slowly. "Yes, Master. I'll pretend that I don't know anything." "That's right." Bai Feng smiled in satisfaction. "Pretending to be ignorant is also a form of intelligence." Chu Li opened his mouth and let out a roar. It was ferocious and swift, like a tiger's roar in the mountains. It was awe-inspiring, but it was also like a clap of thunder. Chu Li nodded in satisfaction. He had mastered the stupefying howl, and the howl was able to shake one's mind. Although it could not kill him, it was not a problem to stun him for a while. This time, he would not be able to dodge the light blade. Once he started cultivating, time would pass in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, it was already the next night. After watching Bai Feng leave, he also disappeared from the Phoenix Goddess brothel. Not long after Bai Feng left, one of the rooms in the Immortal Phoenix brothel suddenly caught fire. The fire raged and thick smoke billowed. The customers ran out of the Immortal Phoenix brothel in a panic, while the Immortal Phoenix brothel's servants rushed to put out the fire. The two men in black took the opportunity to sneak into the third floor and quickly searched the entire floor. They searched from one side to the next, but they didn't find anything. They then went to the second floor, but they still didn't find anything. There weren't any rooms on the first floor. They left without a sound. Almost no one saw them. Yuru was extra careful, but she still failed to notice the appearance of the two men in black. After they left the Immortal Phoenix brothel, they took off their scarves in an alley not far away, revealing two thin faces. The two men looked like each other, so they seemed to be biological brothers. No, that's strange. The taller elder frowned. Why isn't she here either? Looks like we've wronged the Tianluo sect. Bai Feng is here, so we can't help but suspect the Tianluo sect. She's capable of anything. It's good that Bai Feng was defeated. Forget it. If she's not in the Immortal Phoenix brothel, then she might really have returned to the Great Light Peak. Sigh, hey, she's out. The taller elder frowned. He's outside the town. Let's go. The shorter elder also noticed that something was amiss and sensed Chu Li's presence. The two of them disappeared from the alley like two breezes. They passed through Gale City, and soon appeared in a dense forest 10 miles away from Gale City. Chu Li was dressed in a white robe as he stood on a tree, calmly looking at the two men. Zhao Dai. The two men recognized him as soon as they saw him. Every disciple of the White Tiger sect had a portrait of Zhao Dai. Chu Li grinned as he looked at the two men. You're the elders of the White Tiger sect. Are you here to kill me? Of course. The two elders covered their faces with black scarves, revealing only their eyes. How dare you? Die then. Zhao Dai was waiting for them on purpose. Not only did he not escape, but he was also provoking them. He deserved to die. They fiercely punched each other, and the roar of a ferocious tiger was heard. Then 2 tiger silhouettes appeared. They were as clear as real tigers. Although they were only the size of a palm, they had an extraordinary aura as they pounced on Chu Li. The 2 tiger silhouettes moved as fast as lightning and appeared in front of Chu Li in an instant. Chu Li disappeared in a flash and appeared behind a giant tree in the next moment. Bang! One of the tiger silhouettes crashed into a tree and exploded into dust. The other tiger silhouettes bypassed the giant tree and shot toward Chu Li. Chu Li disappeared in a flash and appeared behind another tree. Bang! The other tiger silhouettes crashed into a tree and exploded into dust. The 2 elders took the opportunity to step onto the treetop and fluttered like cotton. They punched again, and 2 tiger silhouettes suddenly appeared and shot toward Chu Li. Chu Li did the same thing and disappeared again. The 2 elders punched again, and another 2 tiger silhouettes appeared. A total of 4 tiger silhouettes surrounded Chu Li from all directions. No matter how good his body movement technique was, he would not be able to escape. He would definitely crash into one of the tiger silhouette. Chu Li scoffed and punched out fiercely. It crashed into the tiger silhouettes, but to no avail. The white tiger killing skill was strange and unpredictable. It only took a thought to determine what was real and what was fake. His fist force hit the void and the tiger silhouettes hit him without any delay. Bang! A muffled sound was heard and Chu Li was sent flying. The other 3 tiger silhouettes followed closely behind. Bang! 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 With 3 muffled sounds, Chu Li was hit 3 times and his body kept flying higher. Pfft! He spat out an arrow of blood in the air and fell limply to the ground. Just as the 2 elders were about to go over, he flipped over and shot out again, disappearing into the forest. The 2 elders scoffed. As long as he appeared, it would be extremely difficult to escape. The white tiger soul-tracking skill was constantly chasing after him, and they could not shake him off. Moreover, he had suffered 4 white tiger killing skills and was already injured. Their skills were so profound that one attack could kill someone. No matter how strong Zhao Dai was, he would be half dead after suffering 4 attacks. It was even more hopeless for him to escape. They chased after him with burning murderous intent. Chu suddenly stopped moving and hid behind a giant tree. They slowed down their body movement technique and cautiously approached him, guarding against any strange moves from Chu. Swoosh! A cold light instantly reached the taller elder's throat. Pfft! He staggered a step back and almost fell. He quickly drifted backward and dispelled the powerful force contained in the blade. A snow-white flying blade fell to the ground, but it did not pierce through his black shirt. Chu hid behind the tree and cursed, "White tiger armor." "Ha ha!" The 2 elders laughed and were relieved. "Zhao Dai, we're wearing the white tiger armor. Your light blade is useless." Chu scoffed. "You people from the White Tiger sect are all turtles. You can't escape." The taller elder wiped his throat and said in a slightly hoarse voice, "It's better for you to surrender." Chapter 8:13. You're injured now. The short elder said, "You can't escape. Why struggle in vain? If you surrender, we'll spare your life." Hee hee. Chu laughed. "You're too good at deceiving people. Spare my life? What a joke. Cough cough. Cough cough." He laughed for a while before coughing violently. "Since you're dead, why not take a gamble?" The short elder said, "If you agree to join the White Tiger sect, we'll let bygones be bygones." "Ridiculous." Chu scoffed. "Why would I join you? Although the White Tiger sect isn't as good as the Holy Church of Light, we treat our disciples better. We're not like the Holy Church of Light, who throws their disciples into desperate situations without caring about their lives. If the Holy Church of Light really valued you, they would have sent people to help you. You wouldn't have ended up like this." The White Tiger sect is different. Every disciple is important and we won't allow anyone to bully them. The short elder said, "Even if we're not as strong as the Holy Church of Light, we can still protect our disciples. I won't betray the Holy Church." Chu scoffed. "This isn't betrayal, it's being sensible." The short elder said, "Even the Holy Church of Light won't blame you. After all, you're forced to do so. You can't die in vain." "Impossible. Then we'll let you go after crippling your martial arts." The short elder said, "We won't really kill you. You're a disciple of the Holy Church of Light after all. We have to respect the Holy Church of Light, so you don't have to risk your life." "I'd rather die now than cripple my martial arts." Chu scoffed. "Sigh. Why do you have to do this?" The 2 short elders shook their heads. "Oh right, you don't have to use your light blade anymore. It can't penetrate our white tiger armor." The tall elder scoffed. "Zhao Dai, it's useless to stall for time." As soon as they finished speaking, they charged at Chu again. This time, they were bolder as they charged at him with 4 tiger silhouettes leading the way. Swoosh! Chu suddenly shot into the distance and a cold light shot at the tall elder's throat. The tall old man took a step back as the force from his throat almost made him tumble. Swoosh! Following that, another cold light shot towards the short elder's throat. He fluttered back a few steps, dispersing the tyrannical force from the blade. He was secretly shocked. While she was distracted, Chu had already run far away. The 4 tiger silhouettes could not catch up to him, and he had already disappeared. The 2 of them looked at each other. They were shocked by Chu-Li's light blade. They could imagine that if they had not been wearing the white tiger armor, they would have been struck by the blade by now. It was no wonder that Tan Jin, with his skills, had been defeated by him. Zhao Dai's light blade had reached the acme of perfection and was truly astonishing. Chu Li ran for a few miles before the two elders caught up to him again. This time, they were even more cautious. 4 tiger silhouettes shot towards Chu Li from afar. Bam, 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 bam. Chu Li could not even dodge a single tiger silhouette. His previous injuries had affected his body movement technique. The two elders were secretly excited. If this went on, Chu Li would be done for in just a few more white tiger killing skills. They could finally get rid of this brat. After Chu Li landed on the ground, he flipped his body and shot forward again. This time, his body movement technique was much slower. Haha! You can't escape. The two elders laughed out loud. Chu Li scoffed as he ran. If you force me into a corner, I'll use the secret technique of great light to fight you. Both sides will suffer. The two elders scoffed. This was also what they were afraid of. The secret technique of great light burned one's essence, energy, and spirit to perish together. It was extremely violent, and none of the secret skills of the 4 major sects could compare to it. Moreover, once it was fully activated, one could directly ascend to the Grandmaster's boundary. Therefore, the disciples of the Holy Church of Light were not afraid of death. They had previously said that they would spare his life, and spent some time talking to him to weaken his will to die so that he would not be able to use the secret technique of great light. The short elder said, "Even the secret technique of great light can't save you. It's better for you to surrender." "I'll give it a try then." Chu Li scoffed. Bam bam. 4 tiger silhouettes shot at Chu Li again. Chu Li flew up and landed heavily on the ground. He struggled a few times but could not get up. The two elders secretly sighed in relief. With these 4 tiger silhouettes, Zhao Dai would not be able to use the secret skill even if he wanted to. The secret technique of great light could not be used casually. It required sufficient inner energy to activate. They slowly approached Chu Li. They could sense that Chu Li's aura was weak and he was on the verge of death. They were very confident in their white tiger killing skill. No matter how strong Chu Li was, he would definitely die after being hit more than 10 times in a row. The fact that he was still alive proved how powerful the divine light body was. When they were about 100 feet away from each other, the two suddenly stopped. Roar! The fierce tiger roared. The two punched each other again and the 4 tiger silhouettes shot at Chu Li. Bam! 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 The 4 tiger silhouettes crashed into Chu Li. Chu Li flew up again. Pfft! He shot out a long arrow of blood in the air. There seemed to be some pieces of flesh mixed in the blood. It was obvious that his internal organs had been shattered. Bam! He crashed heavily into a huge tree and stuck to it, not moving an inch. He was deeply stuck in it. The two elders looked up and saw that Chu Li's eyes were tightly shut. He had fainted. Again, the two elders said. They were extremely cautious, and did not let their guard down even in such a situation. The Holy Church of Light had many strange skills, so they were very cautious. Bam 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 bam. Another 4 tiger silhouettes shot at Chu Li's chest. Chu Li spat out another arrow of blood. When he opened his eyes, his gaze was blurry. It was obvious that he could not see clearly and his mind was in a blur. The two elders finally breathed a sigh of relief. Zhao Dai was no longer a threat. They did not approach him. They wanted to wait for Chu Li to take his last breath before going over. This young man is really tough. How many times has he used the white tiger killing skill? The tall elder shook his head. It's a pity. It's a pity that he's a disciple of the Holy Church of Light. It'd be great if he was from our white tiger sect. The most detestable thing is that the Holy Church of Light didn't cherish him. They let such a genius be killed. The Holy Church of Light is really a sinner. They've wasted so many geniuses. But the disciples of the Holy Church of Light are extremely loyal. It's unimaginable. A genius like him deserves to be killed. The tall elder stared at Chu Li. When he saw that his breathing had quickened, he said calmly, "If a genius like him doesn't die, when will our white tiger sect be able to make a comeback?" That's true. It's better if all the disciples of the Holy Church of Light are dead, especially geniuses like him. We can't let them grow. Otherwise, we'll never be able to make a comeback. The short elder nodded. He's finally dead. When they saw Chuli suddenly straighten his body and hang his head, he stopped moving and stopped breathing. The two elders smiled happily. It wasn't easy to kill this young man. He's tough and the divine light body is powerful. The short elder sighed. Chapter 8:14. Let's go. Let's cut off his head and return to the sect. The short elder shook his head. We've wasted 10 days for this guy. What a sin. We'll have to teach the Flaming Sun sect a good lesson this time. The tall elder scoffed. They keep playing dirty trick. If we don't teach them a lesson, they'll push their luck. They don't know their place. As the two spoke, they arrived under the tree. A tiger silhouette flashed again and hit Chuli, sending him flying out of the tree. Then, he fell to the ground with a bang. Chuli did not move. They were extremely careful. They only approached him after they saw that he was dead. The short elder flipped his body over and faced the sky. Everything about this kid is good, but his appearance is terrible. The tall elder shook his head. It's no wonder that he was thrown here to die. He's really unlikable. The Holy Church of Light is ruled by women. It's inevitable that they'll like those who are good-looking. This kind of ugly guy has a bleak future. The sooner he dies, the sooner he'll be free. The short elder shook his head and smiled. As they were in a good mood, they became more talkative. Duo. Chuli suddenly opened his mouth and shouted. It was like a thunderclap. The two elders were shocked. They were at a loss and their minds went blank. When they came back to their senses, they felt a sharp pain in one of their eyes. Then, their heads started to hurt as if they were about to explode. A powerful force was twisting in their heads, trying to twist their brains into mush. Their other eye widened. They saw Chuli open his eyes and smile coldly. Then, he slowly opened his mouth. Duo. The shout was heard again. They were stunned. Then, they felt an unbearable pain in their other eye. Then, endless darkness surged and swallowed them. The two of them fell limply. Chuli turned over and sat up. He quickly took off their black clothes. They were as soft as cloth and as light as a feather. They were lighter than normal clothes and slightly thicker than the floating silkworm-treasured clothing he was wearing. They spat out blood on the black cloth. Chuli shook it gently and the blood did not stick on it. Chuli smiled and patted his chest. This time, if he did not have the floating silkworm-treasured clothing, his life would be in danger. However, with the floating silkworm-treasured clothing, things would be completely different. He could purposely take a few hits of the white tiger killing skill and feign death to trick them. Then, he would use the nature restoration manifestation and the omniscient mirror to counterattack at the most precise moment, catching them off guard and killing them with a single blow. With the omniscient mirror and the nature restoration manifestation, it was almost impossible for such a plan to fail. Without this antique study, it would not have been so easy to succeed. After all, these two old men were experienced and cautious. He took a deep breath and felt a faint pain in his chest. Even though he had the floating silkworm-treasured garment, he had still sustained some minor injuries. The two old men's skills were profound, and the white tiger killing skill was shockingly powerful. The floating silkworm-treasured garment could not completely block it. A bright moon hung high in the night sky, slowly sprinkling its clear radiance. The clouds beside the bright moon were like fine gauze, drifting with the wind. The rooftop of the 9-star tower in the center of Gale City was flat and spacious. There were rockery pavilions and it was decorated like a small garden. The 9-star tower's reputation as the #1 restaurant in Gale City was not just for show. 4 people were sitting at a table with silver cups in their hands, leisurely enjoying the moonlight. Aside from Zhou Ningyi and Fu Yu, There was also Bai Feng and another handsome middle-aged man with a square face. He was the Flaming Sun sect's elder, Zhang Juanrui. His status was equal to Zhou Ningyi and Fu Yu. Zhang Juanrui, why is the Flaming Sun sect here? Bai Feng lazily swirled her silver cup and gently sniffed the rich fragrance of the wine. You rushed here as soon as you heard the news. What are you trying to do? Miss Bai, didn't you rush here as well? Zhang Juanrui smiled. Bai Feng replied, I was originally here and just happened to be here. I'm different from you. You're trying to pull chestnuts out of the fire, aren't you? Hee, why are you slandering me, Miss Bai? We're not enemies. Zhang Juanrui shook his head and laughed. Then can you explain why Pang Jinshui died in the hands of Zhao Dai and Tan Jin? Bai Feng pouted her beautiful red lips and scoffed. There's no need to say anything else. Why did he appear there? We've already explained this to Brother Zhou and Brother Fu, so there's no need for me to explain it to you. Zhang Juanrui smiled. However, I didn't see you attack, Miss Bai. I'm very curious. Who said I didn't attack? Bai Feng scoffed. After I attacked, I realized that I couldn't deal with him, so I tactfully didn't do anything. Miss Bai, you're smart. Zhou Ningyi chuckled. You know what's important. I don't owe the White Tiger sect anything. Bai Feng cast a sidelong glance at Zhou Ningyi. Don't be so sarcastic and sarcastic. You're right. Zhou Ningyi nodded and smiled. From the perspective of the Tianluo sect, Miss Bai, you've done the right thing. You know when to advance and when to retreat. You've managed to avoid a great disaster. If you've offended Zhao Dai, the Tianluo sect will suffer a great loss. Don't try to provoke us. Bai Feng scoffed. So what if we're afraid of him? We're just a bunch of weak women. Zhou Ningyi and the other two shook their heads. She would say that whenever there was nothing to gain, pretending to be weak and pitiful. However, when there was something to gain, she would not lose to men. She would widen her eyes even more than a man's and fight fiercely. The Flaming Sun sect wants to deal with him too? Bai Feng cast a sidelong glance at Zhang Juanrui. What did the White Tiger sect offer you? Nothing. Zhang Juanrui shook his head. The Holy Church of Light is the common enemy of our three sections. If we don't help them now, who will help us when the Flaming Sun sect is in trouble in the future? You make it sound better than a song. Bai Feng said disdainfully. The Flaming Sun sect would not do anything that did not benefit them. Zhou Ningyi smiled. Brother Zhang has agreed to help us kill Zhao Dai. What do you think, Miss Bai? Bai Feng scoffed. I've personally experienced Zhao Dai's power. If something happens to me, wouldn't that be a great injustice? If you want my help, that's not a problem. Just give me a set of White Tiger armor. We only have 4 sets of White Tiger armor. Zhou Ningyi shook his head. We'll wear all of them this time. We don't have any left. Otherwise, we can lend one to Miss Bai and Brother Zhang. 4 of you are here. Bai Feng frowned. Zhou Ningyi nodded. Besides me and Brother Fu, there's also He Jingchuan and He Jingjiang. What's the use of us then? Bai Feng scoffed. If the 4 of you can't take down Zhao Dai, then I really have nothing to say. Just admit defeat and pretend that nothing happened. We'll mind our own business. One more person means one more force. We must ensure that nothing goes wrong. Zhang Juanrui smiled. Besides, with our martial arts skills, we won't be a burden. Forget it. You guys go ahead and play. I'm not going to go crazy with you. Bai Feng waved her hand. Without the White Tiger armor, I won't be able to dodge his light blade. Zhang Juanrui shook his head and smiled. Bai Feng cast a sidelong glance at him and scoffed. The Flaming Sun sect has ardent sun armor, right? Zhang Juanrui smiled and nodded. Yes. Bai Feng rolled her eyes at him. I'm the only one who doesn't have a treasure armor. Are you trying to harm me on purpose? Zhou Ningyi and Fu Yu were about to speak when their expressions suddenly changed. They looked at each other. Bai Feng asked, What's wrong? Zhou Ningyi frowned. The He brothers are in trouble. Let's go. He turned around and leaped into the air, gliding away. They were on the 4th floor of the building and were about 40 meters above the ground. Fu Yu said, "The He brothers are dead." Zhang Juanrui glanced at Bai Feng and smiled. "Miss Bai, aren't you going to take a look?" "Of course." Bai Feng scoffed. Chapter 8:15. P.S. Update complete. The 4 of them fluttered out of Gale City like the wind. After a while, they arrived at an ancient forest about 10 miles away from Gale City. There, they saw the 2 brothers lying on the ground with their heads separated from their bodies. Their eyes had been pierced by a flying blade. "Ah!" Fu Yu roared into the sky. Zhao Dai, Zhou Ningyi, who had always been a calm person, could not help but look terrifyingly cold and hard. The wounds were obviously caused by the light blade. There was no one else but Zhao Dai. Zhang Juanrui shook his head. "This Zhao Dai is too much. The He brothers aren't mediocre. They're top-notch experts. How could they be pierced in the eyes by a flying blade?" Bai Feng lowered her head to examine their injuries. She frowned slightly. No matter how powerful the light blade is, they shouldn't have been unable to dodge it, right? The eyes were the fastest at dodging attacks, and the eyes were also the hardest to attack. The eyes' reflexes were faster than the brain's reflexes. As soon as an external attack was launched, the body would instinctively dodge without waiting for the brain to react. No matter how fast the light blade was, He Jingchuan and He Jingjiang should have been able to dodge it. Bai Feng's expression did not change as she looked at the 2 men's severed heads. It was as if she was studying rouge. "They were wearing white tiger armor, right?" Zhang Juanrui asked. "That's right." Fu Yu scoffed. "They were wearing white tiger armor, but it was taken away by that brat. I swear I'm not human if I don't kill him." Bai Feng said, "Old man Fu, think carefully before you say anything. Can you really kill him?" "Bai Feng," Fu Yu said coldly, "did you hide him somewhere?" "Old man Fu, are you crazy?" Bai Feng said angrily. "The He brothers were looking for Zhao Dai tonight. They found him and chased him here. He must be hiding in the Phoenix Goddess brothel." Fu Yu sneered. "I didn't expect the Tianluo sect to be so bold. I didn't expect you to be so muddle-headed." Bai Feng shook her head. "Did the He brothers go to the Phoenix Goddess brothel to look for Zhao Dai?" "Yes." Fu Yu scoffed. Bai Feng said, "As expected of the White Tiger sect. They're indeed domineering. They've broken into the Phoenix Goddess brothel just like that. Their next step is probably to break into my Tianluo mountain." "Bai Feng, don't be unreasonable. It's impossible for Zhao Dai to disappear for no reason. He must be hiding in a formation. Your Phoenix Goddess brothel has a formation," Fu Yu said coldly. Bai Feng said, "All right, then how about we go to the Immortal Phoenix brothel again? We'll search each room one by one. If we find him, I, Bai Feng, will cripple my own martial arts and never leave the mountain again. If we can't find him, then you, Fu Yu, will cripple your own martial arts and live in seclusion." "All right," Fu Yu interrupted. "Brother Fu." Zhou Ningyi waved his hand and said, "Stop joking around." Fu Yu harumphed. "I'm not joking. I'll bet with Bai Feng today." Bai Feng sneered and said, "This kind of gambling isn't satisfying enough. How about this? Don't you still have 2 sets of white tiger armor? Let's bet on 2 sets of white tiger armor. If you lose, Fu Yu, add on the white tiger armor. If I lose, I'll kill myself in front of you." "Miss Bai," Zhou Ningyi said angrily, "don't you think you've made a big enough fuss?" Bai Feng scoffed. "I've always been paranoid. I didn't suspect what I should have suspected. Our Tianluo sect has always been well behaved, but we were bullied by you. Today I'll vent my anger. Fu, if you're a man, don't back down." Zhou Ningyi scoffed. "Brother Fu, you don't have the right to bet on the white tiger armor. I'll bet my life too, Fu Yu said. Bai Feng shook her head. Your life isn't as valuable as mine. You're not even as useful as a set of white tiger armor. Miss Bai, Zhou Ningyi shouted. Alright, both of you, stop talking. Look at the situation now. Bai Feng said, the He brothers died mysteriously, and you're venting your anger on me. I'm such a fool to admire the moon with you. Goodbye. She turned around and left after she finished speaking. Wait. Fu Yu scoffed. Bai Feng glared at him impatiently. Fu Yu said, we want to search the Phoenix Goddess brothel again. Fu, you're so annoying. Bai Feng frowned and turned to look at Zhou Ningyi. Old man Zhou, you're the same, right? Zhou Ningyi sighed. If there's nothing wrong with the Phoenix Goddess brothel, we'll give up. Alright, we'll search it. Bai Feng nodded. However, I want a set of white tiger armor. If we can't find him, I'll give you a set of white tiger armor. Otherwise, I won't agree. If you want to search the Phoenix Goddess brothel, you'll have to step over my dead body. Alright. Fu Yu scoffed. If there's no Zhao Dave, I'll give you a set of white tiger armor. If there is, we'll have to have a good talk with sect leader Luo. No problem. Bai Feng scoffed. Let's go. Bai Feng, stay behind us. Don't talk. Fu Yu scoffed. Bai Feng glared at him and shut her mouth. Zhang Juanrui smiled. Miss Bai, I'm curious as well. Where is he hiding? How can he hide from the White Tiger soul tracking skill? He must be hiding with you. Bai Feng scoffed. Zhang Juanrui shook his head. That's impossible. We have nothing to do with Zhao Dai. You guys are blinded by greed. Even if you don't have anything to do with him, you'll still have something to do with him. Bai Feng curled her lips. Fu Yu and Zhou Ningyi brought the two corpses to the Roaring Tiger clan. They left the corpses there and went to the Phoenix Goddess brothel to the 3rd floor. The Phoenix Goddess brothel was noisy and lively. Yu came out in an emerald gown. She looked at the crowd in surprise and then at Bai Feng. Master. Bai Feng waved her hand. Let them search the place. They suspect that we're hiding Zhao Dai. Yes. Yu nodded. Fu Yu glanced at Yu. Yu lowered her head and avoided his gaze. Zhou Ningyi said, let's start from the 3rd floor and go downstairs. We'll search the rooms one by one. Zhang Juanrui smiled. I'll stand guard outside. If he's really there, I'll be able to stop him. Zhou Ningyi nodded. Thank you, Brother Zhang. Bai Feng glanced at Zhang Juanrui. You're too much trouble. Zhang Juanrui chuckled and did not mind. They searched the rooms one by one. They were not worried that Chu Li would escape because their White Tiger soul tracking technique would be able to sense him as soon as he appeared. Yu looked at Bai Feng nervously. However, Bai Feng looked calm and collected. Yu was impressed. She was far less courageous than her master. When they arrived at Chu Li's original room, Yu's heart suddenly raced. She knew that Zhao Dai had returned and was in the room. If they opened the door and saw Zhao Dai, everything would be over. Is there something wrong with this room? Fu Yu suddenly turned his head. He could hear Yu's heartbeat. Bai Feng said impatiently, You'll know once you open it. What? Whose room is this? Fu Yu looked at Yu. Bai Feng scoffed. It's Yu's boudoir. Men like you must be curious. Hurry up and take a look. I see. Fu Yu nodded slowly and pushed the door open. Yu took a deep breath. When she saw that the room was empty, she felt relieved. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.